bus driver in a traffic jam, staring at the faces in a rearview mirror, looking at the promise of the promised land. One kid dreams of fame and fortune.
Hey, let me know when you got sound going, okay?
One kid helps pay the rent. One could end up going to prison. One just might be president.
Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer.
Only in America.
Randy Tobler.
Dreaming in red, white, and blue.
On News Talk STL.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Randy Tobler Show. Hearing a little bit of echo here, Jerome, so there may be something we can do on adjusting the sound there. I'm hearing myself in my ears, so we can probably adjust that a little bit. Welcome to the program. Last night, Tim Johnson joins Vivek Ramaswamy in endorsing Donald Trump. Is it an inevitability? Probably so. What does the continued presence of DeSantis and Nikki Haley mean in the race to the GOP nomination? And what does it all mean for the general election? It looks like the battle is drawn, battle lines are drawn, and battle is on. We have a big show today. Both state politics as well as the national scene are on my mind. I imagine they're on yours too, as things coalesce among most Republicans, if not all. We'll be checking in with Senator Bill Eigel at 7:25. There was a big throwdown in Jefferson City with he and Cindy O'Loughlin yesterday. Of course, Bill's a gubernatorial candidate and part of the Freedom Caucus, and Cindy O'Loughlin is the Senate Majority Leader. So lots going on in Jefferson City. We'll unpack that a little bit, see how things are going with Bill. And I know he's on the trail of taking Biden off of the menu here in Missouri on the Democrat side. We'll see if that happens. And I know Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft is waiting for the Supreme Court judgment to see whether or not he will have the authority to do that. Virginia Cruda at 7:45. Andrew Art Arthur joins us from the Center for Immigration Studies at 8:06. Why? Because suddenly things have gotten a little quieter at the border. Just at the same time that Joe Biden is taking out missile installations in Yemen, launching kinetic action in the Red Sea and in Yemen. Remember that movie, Wag the Dog? Suddenly things get quieter on the border? Are we manipulating things to our own political advantage in this election season? Nah, couldn't be that Joe and his handlers are doing that. We'll talk with Art Arthur about what's going on at the border. And he wrote a great blog and actually a couple other pieces that we want to cover concerning this the Border Patrol numbers for who's coming across and who isn't. Those have been delayed in release. We wonder what that's all about. Tim Jones, of course, you hear him on the Jones and Arp show every afternoon on News Talk STL. He'll be with us because I've got to find out what's going on in his head about the national scene, the Jeff City scene, congressional gridlock up nationally on the border, on spending and aid. What does it mean? We'll have to see. And, of course, your calls all morning, 314-912-1019. Laurie Ingram had an interesting monologue last night, and I think I don't disagree. It was a good day yesterday and a good week as you saw things slow down at the border for whatever reason. If that's because the Biden administration is being shamed into realizing that if they want to have any chance of a snowball in Hades of winning this election, they better tighten things at the border. Is that what the response is? Suddenly people are remaining in Mexico. Wow. After 3 years, it's about time he gets on it. And at the same time, the March for Life yesterday in D.C. was great to see. What a fantastic effort as thousands came out in snow. I wouldn't call it a blizzard, but snow. Speaker Mike Johnson made a revelation in a moving testimony that I think speaks to the power of the pro-life movement. We should call it the anti-abortion movement. Yes, we're pro-life, but more than that, we're anti-abortion. because they are pro-abortion, and we should be clear about that. They're not pro-choice. They're pro-abortion, all the way up to, and in some cases, including infanticide. What the heck's that all about? It's crazy, just crazy. So let's drill down on this short-term funding bill that was spawned on us yesterday. It funds the government through March. Several essential services were threatened at being closed and not funded. And we have to ask ourselves the question, how long are these congressional leaders on the Republican side going to allow this travesty to go on? At the same time, we have to ask the question, they are our representative leaders. And I keep having to remind people of that if they are getting elected and reelected, is it because they've avoided a government shutdown? We saw how in the past, government shutdowns have not been politically expedient for the Republican side because of the complicit media on the progressive side that believes that more government is better government. And so are we the people, and I don't mean you and the person next to you listening to the program and the person who you talk to at work about government spendthrift and loose borders and on and on and on. I mean, that's not, you're for a government shutdown. Let it happen. That's what needs to happen. Hold these people accountable for their profligate spending. I'm talking about those persuadable, perhaps, people in the middle that are going to make the difference when it comes to every election, not in the primary. The primary is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the general. How in the world can we expect to win general elections on the conservative side of the fence when over 50% of Americans are in one way or another getting subsidies from the government? Healthcare, education, sustainable energy, so-called sustainable energy, government workers. There's no bluer place on the planet than Washington, D.C. and the surrounding counties. So are our representatives, and I include those in purple districts. We have to remember there are the Paul Ryan districts. That's a reality in America. We, the people, are responsible for electing representatives who will be fiscally responsible, aren't we? Why do we keep blaming it on them when we're the ones? And again, when I say we, I mean we, the people. That includes liberal people. That includes progressive people. That includes people that think that the government should take care of every problem, supply every need, forgive every debt. That's the problem. There wouldn't be any debate about whether we need to kick the can down the road on the continuing resolutions. Do you know in the last 4 decades we've only passed our representatives have only passed a budget on time for the fiscal year starting on October 1st only 4 times in the last 4 decades. And the last time was 1996, I believe. So when people bellyache about that, I ask them, what have you done to try to persuade your persuadable neighbor, colleague, family member that this is unacceptable? It doesn't work in the business that they work in, does it? There's a budget that is planned and executed. Not, well, let's just buy what we want. Let's just forgive what debt we want. Let's just get into too much funding for soft foreign entanglements instead of getting the job done and getting the heck out in a Schwarzkopf kind of a way. And so we need to start arguing and debating and inspiring among ourselves. And then our representatives will represent that collective and proper notion of how a government should run. Every time I hear people saying throw Mitch McConnell out, I mean, I'm sorry. Mitch McConnell's one guy. Every time I hear throw Kevin McCarthy out, throw Speaker Johnson out. And for all of you folks, and we're going to talk, I mean, look, I may be a little bit at odds with the Bill Eigels, and I know Jim and I have had conversations. Bob and I have had conversations. I don't disagree with what the Freedom Caucus, what Matt Gaetz, what Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't disagree. Rand Paul. Oh, I wish Rand Paul was running for president again and was in the Oval. Of course, he's not, because there are not enough people in this country that abide by the traditional principles. So we have a lot of work to do at the Rotary Club, at the diner, at a cocktail party. We have a lot of work to do. And I don't mean a cocktail party with your friends who are, pachyderms. That's not what I'm talking about. The work to be done is to align people's values with those of the most fervent, most zealous traditional conservatives. We just don't have enough people on the field or on the bench to get those things done. So I'm loath to criticize so-called moderates. They are representing purpler districts, aren't they? And we're going to press Bill on that. I mean, I agree. We need to abolish property taxes tomorrow. We need to throw Joe Biden off the slate tomorrow. But the problem is we don't have enough popular opinion in Missouri, for instance. Those of you who are, listening from the metropolitan area, the St. Louis metropolitan area, you don't realize that your voices are drowned out by hundreds of thousands and more of voters who pull the ballot for those who will plunder your wealth and income for the benefit of others and for their own harvesting of votes. It's that simple. They have representatives too. Jerome's over there. Jerome's saying, "Hey, tone it down. Be quiet. Don't drink too much coffee, Randy. You're gonna have a stroke." But look, I mean, this is true. How you doing, Jerome? Everything going good this morning?
Yeah, I think the gremlins are back in our office, but besides that, I think everything's going all good.
Good. It's good to hear your voice. I know we were having a little tech problem at first, but look, we need to be careful about the infighting in our own ranks and recognize that there are people in districts that are not pure-blooded, hard right, traditional founding father conservatives. And the representatives who wear the Republican brand have to represent their district. If they don't, there'll be a Democrat who panders to enough Republicans but is predominantly Democrat that will get elected in the next cycle. Tell me where I'm wrong. 314-912-1019. Let's have a conversation. Can we coalesce? Can we get along? Can we realize that we are at a center right point in our country? We still are. And we need to get to a right point in our country. How do we do that without shooting ourselves in the feet, having a circular firing squad, and blowing the whole thing up and giving it all to a one-party system led by Democrats that becomes the United Socialist States of America, the USSA? 314-912-1019. When we come back, Michelle Obama, watch her. I've got a story, and we've got some sound. And you should be scared. Be very worried if you're Donald Trump. That coming up. We'll be back.
Can anybody feel this heartache? Is anyone around? Feels like we're running round in circles. We can't catch your breath.
Hey, it's Columbo and Katie inviting you to join us, plus Mark Close and a whole bunch of our musical friends Saturday, January 27th at Westport Playhouse.
Our band, Mark's band, and Lenny Mink will be joined by some very special guests for an awesome night of music for a great cause. All proceeds go to Thrive St. Louis. Get your tickets now at westportplay.com and join us for a great party January 27th at Westport Playhouse. Brought to you by Weber Chevrolet.
Tickets on sale now at westportplay.com. I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
This is Everett Jones of Jones Air and Water Treatment. For the months of January and February, we're here to make your drinking water, cooking, ice, tea, coffee, and other water-based beverages clean, crisp, and free of contaminants. Joey, what do you think of yours?
We use ours here at the station every day, and it's great. There's no cumbersome big bottles, no plastic waste, and it seems endless.
Call us now at 636-899-1040 and schedule your free analysis and let us get you on the way to higher quality water. You can be a filter or buy a filter. Find us on the web at joneswater.com.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch! Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-432-8150. 800-432-8150. 800-432-8150. That's 800-432-8150.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. I'm here to warn you about telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Some of these scammers may say threatening things like you will be arrested if you don't make payments or provide personal information. Do not fall for these tricks. These calls are not from us. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you for information or money. If you receive a call like this, hang up. Never give the caller your personal information, like your Social Security number or bank account, or send money in any form, cash, gift cards, wire transfers, or prepaid debit cards. Report the call to our law enforcement arm, the Office of the Inspector General, at oig.ssa.gov. Share this information with your friends and family.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to the program. If you'd like to join in on the program, the number is 314-912-1019 here on News Talk STL at 1019 and 94.1. This is definitely a decision year of high priority and importance. And I don't think that our candidates are as lock solid as we think they are. Here's a piece from the New York Post by Cindy Adams. But let me set this up with a little sound from Michelle Obama. You heard a little clip of this maybe a week or two ago. Hear this. Oh, well, we don't have it? We don't have it? Don't have it. Okay, well, we'll have it soon. But remember when Michelle Obama was talking to, she was, I don't know, there's some guy who is like a guru, like a self, a self-care, health and wellness guru, psychological guy, self-help guy. And she was talking about how she was so afraid and she's just terrified Trump will win. And then this story by Cindy Adams hit the press the other day. You know, you got Biden, who's more and more holed up. We saw Kamala now running with the campaign water. And it's as though all of the surrogates are running for Joe. Are they setting up just him fading into the sunset, sipping on his chocolate chip shakes? And then out comes Michelle Obama. I've been speculating this for over a year. Cindy Adams reports in the New York Post that over a year ago, in the summer of 2022, that's a year and a half ago, she was in New York City meeting several big hedge fund CEOs saying, quote, "I am running and I am asking for your support," close quote. Now, that's a report in the New York Post. You hear the Obamas are nudging and basically by encouraging Joe and his campaign to be more aggressive. Is that a veiled way of saying, Joe, give it up? It's over? Newsom, of course, that's not going to make it. They've got a $75 billion deficit. Christie, forget about him. Of course, Nikki is soon to be out, even if she comes close in New Hampshire. She's in trouble, it's reported. The polls are indicating in South Carolina. DeSantis, I think it's over. And so it'll be definitely Trump, which I think raises the stakes of a massive monumental loss for Joe Biden, which raises the likelihood that earlier and more decisively, he's going to have to bow out. You don't know where it's going to go, but I just think that when we've got now a reporter saying that she was out there sort of, cajoling some supporters, and you hear the way they're talking about Joe's campaign and how it's just really fumbling. I don't know. I just think that she's unbeatable. And I think I don't think Trump can beat Michelle Obama. I don't think it happens. What do you think? Jerome, what do you think? Think it's over? If Michelle Obama, with now the second man being the former two-term president, being the second man, you think there's any chance Trump wins?
I don't know. Michelle Obama looks pretty strong. Not maybe as a candidate, but as a person, I'd be a little worried about having to face up against her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's one of the most popular women in America. I mean, dare I say, more popular than our own Katie, who's very popular.
Oh, yeah, Katie is very popular. That's true.
Very popular.
Maybe she should put her hat in the ring.
If Katie, there it is, Katie for VP.
There we go.
I was going to ask the question. She hits it on all 8 cylinders. Mom, professional.
Check.
Conservative.
Check.
Multi-talented. She's a singer, a band performer. Absolutely. Attractive. I mean, she hits it on all. She's an attractive candidate in all of the ways. Next time I'm on with Katie and Tony, I'm going to have to ask her if she has an interest. I could start lobbying for her.
Oh, absolutely. I think that'd be a great campaign. I mean, I don't think at this point anybody could really do a worse job than Harris, to be honest. So,
yeah. I think Katie would be a dynamite. She would be a dynamite candidate. Wow. I have to see if she'd be interested in that. I don't know. Of course, I don't know. Then I don't know. She's such a good mama, though. I mean, that would take her off of the mama trail. So I don't know how she'd be able to do all that. She's talented, but how could she run for vice president? And she'd have to we wouldn't have her on the air here anymore. Let me reel that back in. I don't know what I want more. Oh, well. And what would we do without Katie's technical expertise here in the station? I just think that the vice presidential pick on Trump's side is pivotal, as is the determination of who he's really going to be running against. I don't think he's going to be running against Biden. I really don't think so. It's going to be someone else. I don't think it's Newsom. Could Christie run as an independent? He said he's going to do anything he can to prevent Donald Trump from having a second term. The dynamics here are fascinating. Just unbelievable. And then, you throw in the wild card of who's going to be. I don't think it'd be Newsom. But, I mean, RFK, he's polling at what, mid-teens in many of these polls? That's sort of in Ross Perot land. And remember, Ross Perot, I believe, took away a second term from George H.W. Bush. I think it's pretty clear that more votes went from him to Perot than they did from Bill Clinton. So, man, wouldn't that be something? And is there any hope that Donald Trump can solidify some of the voters and not repel them with some of his bombastic rhetorical flaws? People had voted for him in the 2016 election, but then were really like, I don't know, this guy, I can't deal with it. The suburban mom thing. In 2020, they abandoned him. On the other hand, he's gaining ground when it comes with minorities. African Americans are really at a fevered pitch in terms of switching from the Democrats, who have taken Black Americans way too for granted for way too long. I just think it's fascinating. This is just amazing. We'll have to see where it goes. And then we've got the whole issue of the quagmires in foreign policy. And will Joe Biden or whoever's running his campaign and his administration, it's clearly not Joe at this time. It's not Joe. He's the Manchurian candidate. He's out of touch. Increasingly, he's walking around looking like, well, which way did he go? Which way did he go? I mean, he has no idea where he's at. He can't speak a cogent sentence. And he even struggles reading off the teleprompter anymore. But will people who are pulling the strings and want to stay in power, because, of course, power is one of the ambition to power is one of the deadliest vices that exist in the human existence, in the human being. Will those people encourage more warmongering and more stirring up and fomenting of foreign entanglement? Because a wartime president is always a popular president. Let's just face it. People aren't going to abandon a president who's fighting a war, because if you abandon the president, you're indirectly abandoning support for the military, for the service members whose boots are on the ground, whose uniforms are, in the cockpit, pulling on the yoke, at the helm of the ship. Okay, I've covered the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, I haven't covered the Marines. But you know what I mean. And that's the old movie of, did you ever see that movie, Wag the Dog, Jerome?
No, I haven't. What's it about?
It's a great movie. I think help me here, guys. I think it came out in the late 90s. But it was about a candidate basically starting a war to garner political favor among the electorate in an election season. I mean, it's funny. Okay, the other day, Joe Biden announced another dollop of debt forgiveness. So that's a handout for votes. It's preposterous. It's absurd. It's obscene, but that's what the Democrats do: preposterous, absurd, and obscene. And devious and manipulative. What else can I come up with? What other kind of adjectives? But that's the way they act. Well, actually, they're adverbs. So first, it's going to be giving money to young people through more debt forgiveness. They continue to lay money on heavy donors and the people employed in the, quote, sustainable industry and energy industry. There'll probably be some healthcare handout coming along. I anticipate that. What else can we do? What else can he do? Oh, now suddenly the borders are tightening up. We're going to talk with Art Arthur about that at 8:06. I want to talk with him because this is just sinister. Suddenly, the border crossing numbers have come down to a much lower number. They're almost a trickle compared to the maximum of what 10,000 a day back in a month ago or so.
Yeah, that was absolutely ridiculous. You said they're finally doing something about it after Lord knows how many people have come here already. And now that it
Yeah,
needs
they
the
went down and
votes,
had a meeting in Mexico, and somehow now Mexico is suddenly putting a cork in the bottle so that they're not escaping Mexico to our. Isn't that interesting? Why now? Well, I mean, what's changed? You know what's changed? It's an election season.
Oh, absolutely.
We're not that stupid. Apparently, enough American voters are in either focus groups or some kind of internal polling. That's why they do these things. They don't do these moves without clearly strategizing what particular voting target they're going to impact with a particular policy move, or ignorance of enforcement, which they've ignored for over 2.5 years. Well, 3 years.
Yeah, and the amount
We're
of
coming
people
up here on one of the most tragic days in American history. The anniversary of one of the most tragic days in American history. You know what that was, Jerome?
lay it on me.
Is that tomorrow or is it today? The inauguration of President Joe Biden.
Boo.
I think that's tomorrow. Yeah. It is one of the most fateful days. I mean, don't you think so? I think so.
Yeah, I'm not happy with Biden.
Don't you think so? I mean, I think this guy has been a disaster, and yet they claim that it's been good for us, and we just aren't understanding it.
We don't know what's good for us. That's what they think of us.
Yeah.
And the amount of people out there that look at what he's doing and what he's all the promises that he's just now following up on, and they still think, oh, this is good. All these people coming here from Honduras, through Mexico, some of the people from Mexico themselves coming here and just really laying a lot of infrastructural stress on us. That's good in their eyes. And that's what worries me.
No, well, yeah, I think what they're doing, you're right. So they let the people come in. 60 or more percent of the guys coming in are single adult males. These are not families that are destitute and under persecution. These are not women running from rape. These are guys looking for work in America. And they're doing it in all the wrong ways. And of course, they come from cultures and from countries that are totally dependent on a socialist style government. So that's their mindset. And then they come in and they get free lodging, free food, free cell phones, free health care. You saw where they're overwhelming a hospital in Denver, absolutely overwhelming. And American citizens are being turned away. I'm surprised there haven't been just skirmishes that you can't imagine between American citizens and these illegals who are taking away the access to health care. And to make it worse, okay, so you're having a heart attack, or you're having a baby, or you've got a broken bone, or you've dislocated your shoulder, or you've got a hot appendix, and you're knocking on the door of the emergency room, and Consuela and Pedro are there, getting care, and you can't get in, and you're paying their bill. Boy, it doesn't get much better than that, right? Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Hey, real quick before we get you worked up again, we do have a caller that wants to share some thoughts with you, if you have time.
Yeah, let's do it.
Noise.
Who's online?
And it went dead.
We have
I
Rick
just
with
heard
us
somebody.
right now. Sounds like he's got something going on in the background, but Rick would like to share some thoughts with you. He specifically said
Rick, go ahead. What's up, Rick?
All right, I can hear you now. It kind of went dead for a moment, Tito, but I can hear
it's
you.
old
As long as
Rick.
you can hear me.
How you doing, Rick?
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe okay, as long as maybe I am still getting older.
Well, Rick, did you get your well working? You shared with me on the text line that your well froze up. You got that working again, so you have fresh water?
Oh, I'm well now. Thankfully, to have some water. Boy, makes a big difference when you got water. If you can figure that one too, yeah, it's a great deal. I never thought I was that spoiled until I lost water. But
that's tough.
Yeah, I can turn the faucet on and there it is, and get in a shower, which if we don't appreciate taking a shower, somebody else will. So that we do it.
Well said from a guy that spent time overseas in the military environments. Yes.
Well, at least back here in that I don't have snow get shoved up between my toes when hiking to the shower room, so that's a little bit better too. Yep, with the old life in the Himalayas. And but I thought I heard somebody saying something politically correct on the show, and I thought I'd ask because I've been in Africa some, and heard somebody say African American, and they didn't say if they were talking about a white African or a black African or one of the in-betweens on that, because they got all the above over there in Africa. And I've actually met a couple that were actual African Americans, and a couple of them were white African Americans, because when somebody's born in Africa and comes to America, then they figure they are African American at least. But there is some folks that will say that if somebody happens to be like black, and they're automatically called African American, and that offends at least some of my black buddies. They were offended if you'd call them something like that, because they quickly tell you, no, it ain't African, it's just American. And especially if they were ever in Africa, they learn real quick that they have about almost nothing in common other than maybe a complexion. If they're in the middle, the belly of Africa is mainly where the black Africans are mainly at, though they are in the other parts too.
Well, most black Americans, African Americans that I know, don't really take offense no matter what you use. Now, the next time I have Chris Arps on, I have to talk with Chris. I don't think I've ever asked him that question, because, see, it would make a difference to me if Chris had a real beef with one or the other. Then I would probably respect. Not probably. I would respect that, because Chris is a dear friend and a great conservative, and so I would, know. But I think I've used both terms with Chris, and I don't think Chris really. It's not about that with Chris. It's about the policies. I don't know, but that's something I'll have to talk with him about.
But but mine are mostly military. Since that's where I know a lot of black folks from through the military, and just like white folks, you can have good, bad, or otherwise, whatever, and that they're folks just like us. And as far as the Himalayas, I wouldn't mind getting back there again, but that ain't going to happen. Our government, our current government, screwed that up. Too bad.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Well, hey, I got to run, Rick. It's good to talk with you. You stay safe there in Marthasville. Keep your well thawed out, and keep your pipes nice and wet, not frozen. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate the call.
And have a good run.
Hey, you too. There he is. Oh, Rick. All right. Yeah, he was a civilian contractor over in the Afghani effort over there. So, all right, when we come back, we're gonna play some sound that I think is quite moving from the March for Life yesterday, when Speaker Johnson made one of the most moving little 15-second testimonies, but it was powerful. That and more coming up. And at the 7 o'clock hour, of course, we talk with Senator Bill Eigel. We hope to, anyway. We're trying to arrange things on that as we speak. And more time for you to weigh in on the program. Who's Trump's VP? Unless you think it's DeSantis or Haley, still have a chance. And who will he be running against? Those are the two questions on the table here on the Tobler Show this morning. 314-912-1019 on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Be right back.
And then the media.
1019 and 94.1.
They lying about what's going on in America. They lying about it.
News Talk STL. Get charged up on the truth. Power Punch with Larry Behrens.
Everyone's talking about the $6 billion Joe Biden sent to Iran just about a month ago. As well they should be. But did you know he has opened up the money flow to Tehran for well over a year? He doesn't want to talk about it, but we will.
Power Punch with Larry Behrens. Saturday afternoons at 4 on News Talk STL.
Get more Power Punch at powertofuture.com. Congratulations to everyone at Connor Roofing. We chose the Connor Roofing team for our National Best of the Best award for customer satisfaction without telling anyone at Connor Roofing, based on over 30 years of fantastic customer reviews. Rob and Kathy Connor and their team deliver very high-quality roofing, siding, gutters, storm damage restoration at a fair price with integrity. Connor Roofing has had an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau for years. Count on Connor. For an estimate, please visit ConnorRoofing.com. That's CONNER roofing.com.
So we finally got the parts for the time machine.
Classic Kicks Country is streaming now. Hear all your new country favorites from the 90s. Streaming as it happened in the 90s. Classic Kicks. Download the Classic Kicks app from the App Store. Online at ClassicKicks.com. Or enable the Classic Kicks skill on Alexa. 90s new country streaming now.
The young men and women who become United States Marines come from our hometowns to become a part of something greater than themselves. This commitment represents the highest level of steadfast allegiance to the betterment of our communities, our country, and our Marine Corps. The journey will be one of the most challenging, but also one of the most rewarding. The few, the proud, the Marines.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer. On News
Watch us on our live
STL
stream.
using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter.
Welcome back to the program. 647. Bill Eigel joins us at 725. Tim Jones at 805. I'm sorry, Art Arthur at 805. Tim Jones at 825. So we got a packed last half of the show. That's why it's time for you to get in now. I love when you're my guest here at the Liberty Air. So come on in. Jerome will let you in the door, pour you a cup of coffee. What are you serving this morning, Jerome? You got some nice, like, Black Rifle coffee, or what are we using this morning?
Yeah, a friend of mine gave me a little bit of, it's called Death Wish, and it's actually one of the strongest coffees you can legally buy. So I was hoping that would kind of help us out a little bit. But I'd also like to know what Gene, our caller right now, is drinking as well. How you doing, Gene?
Good morning, you guys. Hey, you got to try Jerome Black Rifle Murdered Out. That's their real potent, robust coffee. That's
Yeah.
the fave in our house.
Yeah. You know, my son-in-law and daughter are out in North Carolina at Fort Bragg, now called Fort Liberty. He's finishing up his Green Beret training, and we hope to see him graduate here in February. I'll probably may have to miss you guys for a Saturday because we'll see how that works out. I may or may not be able to make that because there's a big graduation ceremony. But man, they are Black Rifle. They're addicted to Black Rifle. It's good stuff.
It is. It's not cheap, but boy, I tell you, it is fantastic stuff. And pass on congratulations, prayers, and well wishes for both of them.
Yeah. So tell me, what are your thoughts about a VP running mate for what appears to be the inevitable candidacy of Donald J. Trump in this election cycle?
Well, if I can, could I take a quick moment and back up a couple of pieces of a segment?
Sure.
Dan Bongino, a couple of days ago, and I don't know if you're aware of this, he actually served in the Secret Service on White House detail while Obama's were in.
I know.
And he stated on his show that he honestly doesn't think Michelle's going to run because he said, knowing her the way he does, she's a very private person and actually doesn't like getting around crowds and stuff. Now, on the other hand, I think they're both a bunch of strong enough megalomaniacs that, yep, they'd go. And if she went in, it would be the black woman vote. Oh, yeah, that's it. Boom, vote for that without. And then we're going to end up with term 4 of Obama because I still think he's got a lot to do with what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. Joe's out of touch.
He is. And VP pick, he's actually got, I think, a number of really good choices. I don't know who I'd think for his number one. Kristi Noem, Tim Scott's real good, J.D. Vance. There, we've got a pretty deep seat.
How about so you got Tim Scott came out and endorsed Trump yesterday. Vivek has already endorsed him, but I've heard there's been a lot of talk about Elise Stefanik because and that the Democrats one of the Democrats proposed a censure resolution for her because I think they want to try to wound her. I think they might be frightened of Elise Stefanik. She's sharp.
She is. That would not surprise me whatsoever. I mean, whoever he picks, they're going to be cutting loose with the entire firing squad to destroy whoever he picks. That's just the way they work. Gene, and that's what's going to happen.
Now, in terms of vice presidential attractiveness as a candidate, all the way, physically. Policy-wise, everything. Jerome shared with me on the text just now that he thinks that Kristi Noem looks pretty good in a plumber's outfit. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, she does. You have to admit she is quite an attractive woman. That's for sure. But the other women, there's nothing wrong with the look of a good conservative woman.
No. I've said it before. Conservative women, on balance, are much more attractive than liberal women. I don't know why that is, but it's true. It's objectively true. Jerome,
true.
Will you confirm?
Oh, absolutely, it's true.
Oh,
Gene,
I think
will you
so
confirm?
Too. That goes. Oh yeah, that goes all the way back to Maharishi days and everything when he used to talk about the nag woman. That's how he used to refer to National Organization of Women when they were on their high horse.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I think it has to do with personal accomplishment and rugged independence that really defines conservatism. That achievement is a fulfilling achievement and service are fulfilling values in their own and goals and ambitions. And every conservative woman I know is active, achieving, wanting to improve the life of her family and others. And I think, but on their own dime, not on other people's dime, they want to earn it, and that shares the values that their men share. And I think there's something about that leads to a demeanor and to a presence that's just different than I'm a victim, take care of me, woe is me.
Well, I think that's true, and across the board, I think people on the left generally are angry, unhappy, always griping about something, and you look on the conservative side, and you can tell by the way they act in public demonstration situations and everything. Conservatives are just a happier group of people.
Yeah. Okay, but Gene, before I let you go, I do have to ask you. I'm gonna sort of push you on this now. If you had to make a choice tomorrow and make a recommendation to the Trump campaign, because I know that they're listening to you, who would you pick? Who needs to be his VP candidate? Because he's going to be wounded. He's going to be wounded when these trials come out, if they come out before the election. There will be things said in testimony that are going to be wounding, especially to the independent voters. So people will be looking very strongly at this VP pick because that could mean the difference between 0 or 12 years of conservative traditional governance. So who would you recommend for VP?
Let's see. I'd have to roll just without getting into all sorts of things. Kristi Noem.
Okay, Kristi Noem. Gene says Kristi Noem. And I think that you couldn't come up with a better choice than her. Although any of the people that are on the short list would certainly be very, very good. I think Elise Stefanik would be
we've
fantastic.
got a great bench, but I really think it's going to end up being a woman. I mean, you could throw Ben Carson in there too. We just got a tremendous bench of people that would be well-serving.
Really, You're right.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, thanks, Gene. Good talking to you, brother. Stay warm.
Thanks. God bless. You too.
All right. Same to you. Do we have time for that Mike Johnson sound, Jerome?
Yeah, let me go ahead and pull that up real quick.
So Mike Johnson spoke at the March for Life in D.C. the other day, and it was snowing. I mean, thousands and thousands of people came out there to support the unborn, and it just, man, it was heartwarming, and it was such a positive expression in such a negative climate in our country. Here's what Mike Johnson had to say.
I am myself a product of an unplanned pregnancy. In January of 1972, exactly 1 year before Roe v. Wade, my parents, who were just teenagers at the time, chose life. And I am very profoundly grateful that they did.
Powerful, riveting witness for making the right decision and encouraging the right decision. You know, I haven't had a chance to do the research on this, but I'm going to. Jerome, you and I can work on this here today or over the week if we can't find it today. I don't know that Mike Johnson's come out and talked about the circumstances surrounding his parents' pregnancy. But I would surmise and I would speculate that the parents of each of those teens who ultimately became his parents were probably very supportive rather than stigmatizing and rejecting and, oh, go get an abortion. Remember, this happened a year before Roe became law. And I'm wondering if he's ever talked about that in a deeper way and unpacked it. We'll look and see. Anyway, kudos to Speaker Mike Johnson, and kudos to him for holding his ground on the whole immigration thing. When we come back, though, we're going to switch gears to Davos. Some powerful testimony there. Stay there.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
I don't know where I would get the truth if it weren't for you.
Live and local.
Welcome to the People's Republic of America stand.
Here comes another roller coaster, another circus.
This is News Talk STL.
We all know the healthcare system's broken. It's not about you. It's about the code, the bill, the 7-minute appointment. Hi, it's Dr. Randy Tobler, and I've developed a better way that restores old-fashioned values with a holistic approach to your healthcare. That means affordable, available, no copay or deductible primary care. And with my 30-plus years as an OBGYN, there's added value for women and couples. Whether it's a new or nagging problem, you need a second look at a troubling diagnosis, or simply want a trusting, relationship-based healthcare experience, give us a look at Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Our mission is to provide exceptional, accessible, and truly affordable care where the focus is on you, not insurance denial and cookbook medicine experts. And with your membership, there's a number of perks, including hundreds of free meds, in-office ultrasound, common diagnostic tests, and more. Interested in seeing me or learning more about healthcare the way it ought to be? Schedule an appointment or a discovery call at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
Hey, is that a faucet running?
Nope. That's not a faucet. That's a river rushing through the forest.
It is?
Yeah. Forest rivers provide over 100 million people with clean water to drink. The water comes straight from the forest to us. In fact...
What? I can't hear you because of the vacuum.
That's not a vacuum. That's the trees in the forest cleaning up the air we breathe.
How do trees clean the air?
They soak up the dirty air on their leaves, branches, and trunks, which means clean air for us.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Yep. But the forest does more than give us clean air and water. It gives us shade for hot days, birds to listen to, and trees to climb.
Wow, that's awesome. I didn't know how cool the forest could be. Hey, let's go explore some more.
Visit the forest today and enjoy all it does, just for you. To learn more about the forest and find one near you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Tony Colombo here for Cadre Asset Management. A cadre is defined as a small group of people specially trained for a particular purpose or profession, and that is the role that Cadre Asset Management can play in your financial journey. Learn more about how they can help secure your financial future by following Cadre Asset Management on Facebook, or just go to cadreassetmgmt.com.
Cadre Asset Management is a Missouri-based independent advisory firm licensed under and securities and investment advisory services offered through Founders Financial Securities, LLC, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
There was an absolutely brutal attack on Andy Ngo. He is the conservative investigative journalist. Some of those people were sued, and there was a court ruling that let those people off the hook. Did you notice that that wasn't in the big national headlines? Somebody being attacked because they were observing criminal activity.
Weekday mornings, 5:30 to 9.
On News Talk STL.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at
newstalkstl.com.
On representing the Assembly of Canonical Bishops.
O Heavenly Father, good Comforter, and Lord Jesus Christ, Creator of all things, you knew us from our mother's womb and ordered the world for our salvation. Protect your babies, both born and unborn. Guide their parents. Reveal to us the ways which we should walk today and every day.
Donald Trump spoke at a campaign rally last night in Concord, New Hampshire.
With your vote 4 days from now, we're going to win another historic victory in the great state of New Hampshire, and then we're going to defeat crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our country.
Retired U.S. Navy Admiral James Stavridis says Israel is already making plans to redirect its war effort toward Hezbollah.
What the Israelis will do is begin by softening the target sets up there. They'll go in and take out some of the shorter range surface-to-surface missiles. Those are the ones that are postured the closest to that border of northern Israel.
And the retired U.S. Navy Admiral James Stavridis was interviewed this week by the Salem Radio Network. He says that Hezbollah continues to lob missiles and artillery fire across the border, and also that Hezbollah poses a much greater threat even than Hamas. Analysts say about a 15 times greater threat than Hamas. Sales of previously occupied U.S. homes sank in 2023 to a nearly 30-year low as mortgage rates climbed to the highest level in more than 2 decades, pushing home ownership out of reach for many Americans. Those numbers from the National Association of Realtors on Friday. More of these stories at townhall.com.
We all know that aches and pains come with simply getting older, but it doesn't mean you have to accept it. That's why I want to tell you about a special lady, Leah from Ohio, and her Relief Factor story. One Sunday, Leah was sitting on the couch in so much pain she was literally in tears. That's when she decided to try Relief Factor. Just 8 days later, she found relief, and she continued to get better and better. To quote her, she said, "I am truly amazed at this product. Like me, who after 9, almost 10 years, almost a decade of low back pain, lost that pain thanks to Relief Factor. If you're living with aches and pains, see how Relief Factor, a daily drug-free supplement, could help you feel and live better every day. Get the 3-week quick starter pack at relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF. It all comes with the feel better or your money back guarantee. That number, 1-800-4RELIEF, relieffactor.com.
An iconic sports magazine struggling to stay afloat.
The jobs of people who produced Sports Illustrated were in limbo after the company that paid to maintain the iconic brand's print and digital products told staff that its license was revoked. In an email to employees Friday morning,
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hi, everybody. It's your buddy Todd Showalter, along with my buddy Joey V from The Right Mind Show. You know how they always say, new year, new me? Well, we don't say any of those stupid things here. But you know what? Every week, we do have a new guest right here on The Right Mind Show. Isn't that right, Joey V?
Stop being so stupid and forgetful. Put it on your calendar. Saturdays, 5 p.m., Right Mind Show. Get in your car. Don't drive anywhere. Just look at the radio until sound comes out.
And if you do miss the show because you're watching Matlock at that time, make sure to tune in to rightmindshow.com. That's rightmindshow.com for all the show replays. And plus, what better things do you have to do on a Saturday at 5 o'clock?
It may be cold outside, but one of the best ways to warm up this winter is with a visit to Johnny's Hideout in High Ridge, Missouri. Located 10 minutes from 270 in Gravois, Johnny's is the go-to St. Louis sports bar and grill experience featuring over 30 big TVs, full bar, excellent, awesome food featuring the famous Johnny Dow's chicken wings, live music with local musicians, and a huge game room. Johnny's Hideout opens 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. Check out the Speaker of the House table on your next visit. More information, jhideout.com. That's jhideout.com. Johnny's Hideout in High Ridge.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote and accelerate the development of quality Christ-centered K through 12 education.
Hi, this is Daryl Jones, president of the Herzog Foundation. Our primary goal is to advance Christian education so that families and culture flourish. The legacy of Stan's business career centers around making national transit ecosystems accessible and sustainable. Likewise, the legacy of Stan's philanthropy centers around making the ecosystems of Christian education more accessible and sustainable for families across the nation. Visit HerzogFoundation.com to learn more about our programs, including trainings, scholarships, conferences, news, and our podcast, Making the Leap.
Visit HerzogFoundation.com to learn more and sign up for The Lion, an initiative of the Herzog Foundation that carries articles covering a wide range of issues facing American families and culture. HerzogFoundation.com.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
Who's going to win the New Hampshire primary Tuesday? And could Donald Jr. be Donald Trump's pick for vice president?
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer, on News Talk STL. This is News Talk STL.
Good morning. It's 2 degrees according to my AccuWeather forecast. I don't know if that's right or not. Is that what you're registering there, Jerome?
Yeah, it was absolutely freezing this morning.
Yeah. I had a bad circumstance last Sunday. You know, my wife was out of town. She was with the grandkids, and my daughter, who's, the son-in-law, is out on his last foray into Green Beret training. We don't know what happens. They leave for 4 to 6 weeks, at a time. And I think they're doing like POW simulation or something. We never know all the detail. We can't know, of course, but it sounds pretty harrowing. And I know, I know we talked to Representative Dave Griffith from the Cole County area in mid-Missouri yesterday, and he was a Green Beret, and we talked a little bit about it. It's pretty harrowing training, so we certainly honor our military guys, whether they're special forces, regular service. It doesn't matter. It's a sacrifice. Anyway, Helene was out there, and last Sunday, remember, was just an unbelievable Arctic blast. I started out to church, and my diesel truck, after I had it plugged in, I had the block truck plugged in, I dumped triple dosing of the anti-gel stuff in, thought I'd done everything, and I headed out to church, and about, a mile away, I get low fuel pressure. Oh, no. Next thing you know, it's like low engine power. So now I'm in limp mode. And so I pulled into one of the, I don't know, O'Reilly AutoZone, one of those, and they plugged it in. They said, oh, it's probably a fuel filter. I didn't get home, so I had to get towed in. And luckily, there was a place open actually on a Sunday afternoon. That if you're an auto shop owner, there is a lane for some business that you wouldn't imagine. It's equivalent to like the snow blading business. Guys have blades that they put on their truck, and they make hay when it snows, clearing parking lots. I was desperate. No one was open. I finally got in, and and it was a fuel filter, so they had to put a fuel filter in. I got it. So for those of you who have diesels, the message is, if you are heading into a winter, it's a good idea to change that fuel filter, because it was all gelled up. It was like white jelly when they pulled it out, and it just wasn't letting fuel through, even though the fuel wasn't gelled. The fuel filters gunk up over time in a diesel, and you got to change it before the season comes, and then you should be okay. That's my mechanic advice. It's about worth what you pay for it. But that's what I was told anyway. So be careful. Make sure your batteries are in good shape. And, this kind of weather can be very, very devastating, not only just with a schedule disruption, but more. If you get caught out and, you're far away from civilization and you stall, it could be ugly. So be careful. That ever happen to you, Jerome? You ever get caught like out away from civilization with a stall?
Oh yeah, I like to go trekking, and I like to go and do what's called urban exploration. So you basically just go to abandoned parts of town, try to see what's out there. And back in Illinois, we actually have a few ghost towns, and I left my headlights on so we could see what we were doing. And I forgot to keep my car running. So what ended up happening was my battery died on us, and we had no cell phone signal. We were basically SOL until a random car came by and helped jump us after an hour and a half. We were freaking out.
Man.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, but
So what's this called? Trekking?
So it's urban exploration, kind of. It's not quite where you go in the middle of the woods, but there's a lot of areas that are just completely abandoned. Maybe towns that something happened, and like Cairo, Illinois, for example, would kind of qualify for that. It's very, a little bit run down. Not very many people live there anymore. So we just go to these abandoned places or these, out of the way places, and we just kind of explore, look around, take some photos. Yeah.
Wow. Hey, that's cool. Do you put it on your Instagram or that kind of thing?
I should have. I'm not really a big social media user, so for some reason that just never occurred to me. But yeah, the next time I make some of these travels, I'll definitely have to start maybe a blog or something.
Yeah, that's neat. Hey, well, let's talk a little bit about Davos. Now, remember, Davos is this organization started by Klaus Schwab. He's a German engineer. We're going to start the World Economic Forum 52 years ago. We know what's good for you. We're going to show you the papers. So Kerry and Gore and all the wealthiest people and political movers and shakers, they gather in Davos, Switzerland. I think Jesse reported the other night that many of them, this is a good opportunity for escorts, in big air finger quotes, $700 an hour escorts. That's a new world order of a different type, if you know what I mean. I think they're ordering up some interesting things, and it ain't from room service. At any rate, I was thrilled, elated, excited. What other adjective can I use? To hear Dr. Kevin Roberts, he's a professor of, I don't know what he's a professor of, down at University of Austin, but more importantly, he's the president of the Heritage Foundation, University of Texas, Austin, I should say. He is in the belly of the beast, Davos, Switzerland, among the most progressive people, globalist. We know what's good for you. Shut up and do what our bidding says. And he talked about the presidential election in the United States of America this cycle. Listen.
Which clip was that?
Three.
Clip 3?
Clip 3.
One moment.
He was
sorry.
talking. He was really. He was in their face about
the kind of person, and I'll be candid. The kind of person, and I'll be candid here because I think I've been invited here to be candid. The kind of person who will come into the next conservative administration is going to be governed by one principle, and that is destroying the grasp that political elites and unelected technocrats have over the average person. And if I may, I will be candid and say that the agenda that every single member of the administration needs to have is to compile a list of everything that's ever been proposed at the World Economic Forum and object all of them wholesale. Anyone not prepared to do that and take away this power of the unelected bureaucrats and give it back to the American people is unprepared to be part of the next conservative administration. The kind of person.
There you go. I mean, he basically nailed it. And he went on. It was a long talk, and I think it was a panel discussion. But here in the background, you see on the green screen, on the background of the stage, you see World Economic Forum. And he's basically telling these people that are out of touch, absolutely out of touch with you and I walking out of our grocery store with 2 plastic bags of stuff that used to cost $12, now cost $25. Thanks, Joe. on the heels of the research going on in China, the pandemic, the World Health Organization, all of these global organizations that have their head up their rears, and they're led by these technocrats who claim to know what's best for us. And this guy says, look, the successful leader in the West needs to just reject everything you people are about. Yay, good. Where's the cheers button? That's what we need. We need more people like that to call out truth to power. Bill Eigel is going to be joining us in just a few minutes. Senator Eigel is running for governor, of course. And wherever Bill goes, controversy follows because he's in people's faces about property taxes and lately initiative petitions. And he's got some strong feelings about conservative governance. And I'm going to ask him about the fact that there are people that have told me that they think that him and his Freedom Caucus members have burned bridges and they're not going to be able to get anything done. I'm going to ask him. I've got to ask him. Bill's a friend of mine. So is Cindy O'Loughlin. Bill and Cindy had it out on the Senate floor yesterday. Was it yesterday or day before? Holy cow. We got some sound on that. We're going to ask him about it. And Bill answers the tough questions. He does, and I appreciate that. We'll have to ask him how the campaign's going, but more importantly, what's going on the Senate and if anything's going to get done. Latest is that the Freedom Caucus members have stated that they're not going to approve any. They're going to filibuster gubernatorial appointments unless they get initiative petition reform. We need initiative petition reform. We need something to happen to prevent this constitutional amendment from being on the ballot that will allow abortion with no restrictions until God knows when. Maybe you're 2 years old, you can, quote, abort the baby. I don't know what it's going to allow. Just what happened in Kansas, akin to what happened in Ohio. The people that are pushing the pro-life agenda are getting nothing. They're getting the opposite. And this is a very important discussion among conservatives and among pro-life people. Again, it's from here to there. What is the right route from here, progressive, woke, socialist, culturally depraved America, to a culturally appropriate traditional values, small government, but protecting the life of the citizens, including the unborn, the pre-born citizens? How do we get from here to there successfully without shooting ourselves in the feet? That's I think the problem that many people have with what is referred to as the far right. It used to be closer to the center in America. Now it is the far right because the former center of America is now left. And it's and again, then that raises the question: Can you change the culture with political policy, with governmental interdiction? I don't know that we can. I think, like Andrew Breitbart said, not Breitbart. Andrew Breitbart said that culture is upstream from politics, and he's right. And Shapiro mentions that all the time. I agree. You can't legislate morality. You may be able to tame people's the human condition is basically a depraved, immoral one. I'm a Nietzscheist there. It's only the good book and the revelation of God's law and our attempt to abide by it that puts any curbs on us, along with whatever governance that we, under that edict, the cultural mandate, elect. Well, if you have a culture that's depraved, and it is, how can you expect your politicians and civil society to do anything but follow the depravity of the electorate? I don't know. Maybe Bill Eigel has an answer. He answers the tough questions. That's what I say. And I will ask him the tough questions when we talk with him in just a little bit here on News Talk STL 1019 94.1. You won't want to miss that. And coming up at 8 o'clock, we talk with Andrew Art Arthur, who's a former immigration judge. And we'll talk to him about what's been going on at the border. Why is it suddenly getting better in this election season? Are they manipulating things that they could have for 3 years, and now they're doing it because politically expedient? What are the latest Border Patrol numbers in terms of border crossings? They've been delayed in releasing those. That is December's results here in January. And then Tim Jones, our own Tim Jones, joins us at 8:25. So we have a packed show the rest of the time for you. Hope that you'll keep it here. I am loaded with coffee. Hope you get locked and loaded with coffee. We'll see you in a little bit.
I'm coming for your love take on me.
Where callers won't be canceled.
It's just so ridiculous and so offensive.
And we don't socially distance from differing opinions.
I couldn't disagree with you more. I haven't always agreed with you.
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
This country is worth fighting for.
That's why we're canceling those season tickets. That's why we're canceling those subscriptions.
I'm just so sick and tired of it.
Disgust us.
It's insanity, man.
This is News Talk STL.
When it comes to buying or selling a home, you've got to work with people that you trust. It's just crucial. Mike Ferguson here. And when my wife and I decided that we wanted to get a cabin or a weekend home or a vacation home, whatever it turns out to be, the first thing I did was call my friends Rodney and Jen Wallner at 314-810-SOLD. This is too big of an investment to leave to chance, and that's why I trust Rodney and Jen, and I think you should too. Vic Porcelli, I know you feel the same way, right?
Yeah, Mike, no doubt. Here's the thing. You've been in your house for 30 years. You say to your spouse, my goodness, we don't need all this room anymore. Let's call Rodney and Jen Wallner and get the heck out of here, okay? They have so many home buyers approved, ready to go, ready to pull the trigger. They might even sell your house before it hits the market. And an astounding fact that the Wallner team sells 15 times more homes per year than your typical realtor. Nobody else you should go to or call than Rodney and Jen Wallner, the Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. 314-810-SOLD. That's 314-810-SOLD.
Mark McCloskey here. Let me tell you about my friend Ian McFarland and his company, Modern Weapons Systems. They sell the newest top-tier weapons found on current movies, TV shows, and video games. They also carry a full line of NFA items such as suppressors, short-barreled rifles, and shotguns. Plus, they offer the best laser engraving services in town. If you're looking for the best value and family-friendly service for all your gun needs in Greater St. Louis area, visit Ian and his team at Modern Weapons Systems in Fenton. Visit them online at modernweaponsystems.com or call at 314-252-0486.
Sundays at 5 on News Talk STL.
All your hard-earned tax dollars and mine are going to fund illegal aliens who come across the border penniless, jobless, skillless, and they're given a cell phone, an identity, and a cash stipend every month.
Mark McCloskey on fire.
That beats your Social Security income if you should have the good nature to work your ass off your whole life and retire.
Mark McCloskey on fire. Sundays at 5 on News Talk STL.
Brought to you in part by Modern Weapons Systems in Fenton.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo for my friends at A+ Plumbing and Drain, and they truly are our friends because they have done it all at our house over the years, from putting in a new faucet to installing a whole new bathroom from scratch. The team at A+ has always done great work for a great price. A+ Plumbing and Drain is a local, family-owned business that can take care of all your plumbing needs and specializes in new construction and home renovation. Call A+ for your next project at 636-288-7126 or through Facebook at A+ Plumbing and Drain.
Great news for my sponsor, Napoli Sea. And it's no surprise to me nor hundreds who have dined there. The first time I entered, it was clear Napoli Sea is unique. The decor, the fish, imaginative cocktails, and of course Napoli Sea is right next door to Napoli 3 in St. Charles. Napoli 2 is in Town and Country. The original Cafe Napoli is in Clayton, and I'm honored to endorse each of them. Visit any of the Cafe Napolis.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com.
Of any legislature anywhere in the country. Why not do it today?
Well, 3/4 of our time is spent listening to you.
a bill other than IP reform. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, I'm going to vote against that amendment.
I bet you are.
Yes.
No, they will vote against it because they are against you coming in here and trampling every other senator's ability to
We're not
move
trampling.
something
See,
forward.
once again, and there it is again, the daily reminder of my campaign. Thank you,
well,
Senator.
we don't need a daily reminder because
Thank
we
you.
have you
Thank
to
you.
remind us every day.
You keep talking about me. I just want to pass IP reform.
You just want to be governor.
Well, that was a little back and forth between Senator Bill Eigel, of course, from the St. Charles area here in Metro St. Louis, and Cindy O'Loughlin, who is the majority leader of the Senate in Missouri. And there's ongoing rancor. It started the very opening day of the Senate. It continues from last year's, I think most would agree, objectively dysfunctional session. And so we're going to be talking to Senator Eigel here in a minute and just try to get his take on what's going on. It's been reported that gubernatorial announcements or nominations are going to be filibustered. And Senator Eigel joins us now. Bill, how you doing? Bill Eigel, are you with me?
Hey, I can hear you, Randy. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
There we go. Hey, thanks for being on. I know things have been really fast and furious there in the Senate as we've gotten off to a quite turbulent start. I don't know if you heard that little montage that we played, but there was quite a back and forth between you and Cindy O'Loughlin. Did you get a chance to hear that, Bill?
I did not hear it when you played it just now, but I tell you what, I was there when it happened. So
yeah, I know you were.
I did hear it.
It was quite. So you say you want to have initiative petition reform, but you said I thought you said you were going to vote against the initiative petition amendment. That seems to be cognitively dissonant. Explain.
Oh, so no. So what she was talking about during that point in the inquiry, she was telling me on the floor that she was going to offer a substitute motion that instead of going to initiative petition reform, we were going to go to a tort bill that she would make the motion to go towards instead. So I was telling her that I would not vote for for her motion to go to something other than initiative petition reform.
Okay, it was that. Okay, so what's the problem? How come we can't all get along? We all have elephants on our T-shirts. We all go to Lincoln Days. Why can't we get along, Bill?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think a lot of people in Missouri have been asking this question for years, and the answer is that the words coming out of the mouths of our leadership right now don't match their actions. And unfortunately, because there's been a dissonance between their words and their actions, not just this year, but in several years in a row, the result of that is that we're not getting the big red Republican priorities that we all pretty much agree are indeed a priority done in the legislature. So IP reform, initiative petition reform, is one of those items. So initiative petition reform coming into last year was identified by the Senate Republican caucus as the number one priority to get done. And of course, Randy, you're familiar with the efforts of the pro-abortion crowd to try to instill abortion and abortion rights back into our Constitution this year. So the Republican caucus was very forthright, and I think a lot of Republicans agreed with us all over the state that we wanted to get that done. It was the number one priority. Well, even though we have one of the longest regular sessions in the entire country, leadership found a way to maneuver the bills so that they never got done and they never reached the ballot. So after a long conversation back with the public, who was very disappointed in that, we came into this session expecting movement to happen on initiative petition early and often in the session. And yet, as you and I are talking here this morning on the third week, after 3 weeks of session, the pro tem, Caleb Rowden, has not even referred any of the 9 initiative petition bills that were filed by multiple members of the Republican caucus down in Jefferson City. So once again, they're saying that they believe that they're committed to doing IP reform, and yet here we are, the first month is almost over, and they haven't even referred the bills. So instead of waiting like we did last year until the middle of the session or the end of session, hoping that they're going to do the right thing, myself, a few others, and the members of the Freedom Caucus are being far more aggressive about putting them on account that if they're not going to push these bills forward, we're going to start making motions on the floor of the Senate that'll put them on record for for whether or not they're going to support it. And when I made that motion to bring IP reform directly to the floor on Thursday, not almost 18 Republicans voted against it. So the dissonance that you're talking about is really in place with a lot of the Republicans that are saying one thing, but then they're doing something else. And, Randy, you know that Cindy O'Loughlin has been a friend of mine for a long time. But I got to tell you, it was tough. It was difficult to watch her completely come unglued on the floor of the Senate this week. To see Cindy O'Loughlin, who is somebody I respect and admire, reduced to nothing more than personal insults, and just completely lost her composure, was shouting at me, was yelling at me, calling me all sorts of names, because she was very upset that I had, I guess, the gall to demonstrate to the whole state that they weren't really serious about getting these things done. She really didn't handle it well, and I think the implications of that are not good for the rest of the Senate as we move forward.
So I think in fairness, we always should try to give our generally ideologically aligned colleagues in the GOP / conservative movement, some grace and the benefit of the doubt. What would be the argument in favor of doing other things ahead of this? I mean, why not acquiesce to the desires of the Freedom Caucus? Is this become just a match, or is there some strategy here? Is there some strategy that might be in play?
Well, I can tell you that for the members of the Freedom Caucus, it's about policy. And, I think that we did give them a tremendous amount of grace and an opportunity to demonstrate that they were going to work to get these bills done. We gave them all of last year. We gave them an entire legislative session. And when we gave them an entire legislative session last year, that meant that the first time that an IP reform bill came to the floor of the Senate was not until after spring break. And then we came into this session, and we've given them 3 more weeks in this session, even as the pro-abortion folks are put together this week $1 million to get abortion back into our Constitution. We still gave our leadership 3 weeks to demonstrate that they were going to start moving these bills quickly, and they still did nothing. So, yes, you're absolutely right. We should give our colleagues grace, but there's also a point where the status quo, and I think this is the trap that Senator O'Loughlin has really fallen into. When Cindy first came into the legislature, Randy, I couldn't have been more of a fan of Cindy. She was a member of the Conservative Caucus. If you looked at her voting record as measured by the American Conservative Union, she voted conservative and voted Republican 90% of the time. She was one of the most conservative senators, not just in words, but in actions, in the Missouri Senate. And then, if you look at her most recent year as the floor leader of this state, her grading record has dropped from 90% down to the low 60s in percent. So unfortunately, this breaks my heart. I had high hopes for Cindy. I had high expectations for Cindy as floor leader. I voted for her as floor leader. But instead of being that conservative warrior that is pushing this conservative legislation forward, she has assimilated into the status quo. She is now busy defending inaction on IP reform. She is voting with the Democrats to kill the motions that the Freedom Caucus is making on the Senate floor to move these things quickly through the process. And now, when called to account on the Senate floor, she has completely lost her composure and is reduced to nothing more than a very angry person who does little more than insult her colleagues on the Senate floor, which is just awful. I mean, I think she called me everything from a narcissist to a terrorist to, this is a really sad state of affairs. And it breaks my heart to see her at this place, to be so overwhelmed by the responsibilities that we've put on her that this is where she's at right now. I don't want to see this happen to Cindy O'Loughlin. It makes me wonder if we're not going to need new leadership in the Senate chamber before the end of session. But I don't celebrate, and I find no joy in what's happened to Cindy O'Loughlin as she has really descended into a very dark place as the floor leader in the Senate.
Well, Bill, I admire your resolve and the Freedom Caucus's policy stance and resolve. I also think, though, that we live in a society where people represent different interests and districts, and I still wonder, you mentioned that 18 other senators voted against the the proposal to get the IP thing on the floor there. Why would what we're hearing in the background, those of us who are more on the just observer side, we're observing this. We want to see everyone get to property taxes, IP reform, education choice. I mean, everyone has a nominal goal that's shared, but we watch this, and what we hear is that, and this is from people inside the Capitol building, Bill, that aren't elected officials. They say, what I'm hearing is, quote, the Freedom Caucus, and sometimes it's you, quote, have burned bridges, close quote. What is your response?
I'll tell you, my purpose, my job down there in Jefferson City is to represent my constituents and do everything I can to pass the policies that I said I would when I was in campaign season. I've never backed away from that. Now, I'm in my 8th year. And I know that when I go out, and I'm pretty bold and pretty aggressive about wanting to pass these big red Republican things. And Randy, you know that there are a lot of those big red Republican things that have not passed. And they haven't passed because there's some sort of, I'm being too mean to the other senators down there in Jefferson City. It's not that they haven't passed because, the senators in the Missouri Senate have such thin skin that they can't get beyond, the fact that we're going to work towards passing good policy. They haven't passed because too many Republicans who say one thing in campaign season are just going down there and doing something else once they get into office. The reality is we could have brought initiative petition reform to the floor of the Senate on Thursday, and if it would have made it through those motions that we were offering, we could have brought it up on Monday and sent it over to the House by Tuesday. That is a fact. Mm-hmm. Now, whatever these senators think, that if they don't like me personally because I'm bold about my stances that we're going to get these things done, that's a cop-out. That's an excuse. They have a responsibility to vote on policy, not on their personal animosities that they may hold against other senators. And I tell you what, the fact that I think that there are senators doing that is exactly, Randy, why so many Republicans are furious with Jefferson City. To think that we're not going to get initiative petition reform done because there's some senator that doesn't like another senator in Jefferson City. We're not going to cut personal property taxes because there's a senator that holds a personal vendetta against another senator in Jefferson City. That is exactly politics as usual. And I tell you, Cindy O'Loughlin, and I hate this. I hate to say this because I helped Cindy O'Loughlin get elected. But Cindy O'Loughlin is now engaging in exactly that. She's literally saying that she doesn't want to vote for these motions that would get these things done because she doesn't want to be seen as giving in. Well, what is giving in if it's for the benefit of passing the big red ideas that we all said we would support in campaign season? The thing that reunites the Republican Party is not whether we like the guy next to us personally. The thing that unites us is whether we're going to stand together and fight for the rights and fight for the things that we said we would in campaign season, which are in the GOP platform. Right now, Cindy O'Loughlin, 18 other Republicans had a chance to do that on Thursday. They voted no, and then they lost their composure out on the Senate floor. And I'll tell you, Randy, if I had lost my composure the way Cindy did, if I had called Cindy a series of terrible names out on the Senate floor, lost my composure, I have to wonder, would you be asking me, what was I doing, losing my composure and allowing the conversation to reduce to nothing more than personal insults and barbs? I don't know if you're going to get a chance to ask Cindy O'Loughlin that, but I think there may be a little bit of a double standard here. Everything I said on Thursday had everything to do with policy. Cindy O'Loughlin voted against that policy. 18 Republicans voted against that policy. When are they going to come on your show and explain to the people of this state why they voted against passing initiative petition reform this week when the pro-abortion forces have put together $1 million to install abortion back in our Constitution?
All right. Well, I intend to ask Cindy that because it's an ongoing it's of ongoing interest to everyone listening to this program and conservatives across the state. But again, there has to be another side. I don't know whether it has to do with campaign funding, whether it has to be some other argument. But I mean, you both are good people. You both are smart people. You both want the same thing. I don't know why we're not getting there. I mean,
Well,
Caleb Rowden is not a slouch. He's a fervent Christian. He's a good man who wants to preserve life. I don't know why he would be on the other side of the fence. It doesn't make sense.
So Randy, when you ask me what am I doing to pass these bills out, here's what I've done. I filed the legislation. When the legislation didn't get referred, I offered amendments on the floor that were voted down by Republicans. That's what I've done. When you ask Cindy the question, what has she done? She's called a bunch of people names out on the Senate floor. She has voted against the motions that would have brought those things to the floor. She hasn't put any pressure on Caleb Rowden to refer those bills. And by the way, at the end of all of that filibustering on Thursday afternoon and Thursday evening, when Caleb Rowden withdrew his motion on the gubernatorial appointments, he could have made a motion right then and there to refer every one of those initiative petition reforms, and yet he didn't refer one of them, not one of them. And so again, you're asking me why my actions are matching my words. I want to pass IP reform. Cindy O'Loughlin's actions are not matching her words. She says she wants to pass IP reform, but she voted against the motion that would have done it. Caleb Rowden says he wants to pass initiative petition reform, but every single day that he could have referred those bills, he hasn't done it. He actually asked me on the floor of the Senate, well, we didn't refer these bills last year until January 17th. He's right about that. And then they didn't get heard in committee until a month later. And then they didn't pass the session because they didn't come up on the floor until 2 months after that. So our call, the Freedom Caucus's call to be moving this through the system quickly, even if it's extraordinarily quickly, is an incredibly reasonable one. And the fact that all we get in response from our colleagues is people calling us names and voting against our motions, I mean, I can't even get my head around the fact that I'm the one being called to account here, and I'm happy to explain it. When is Cindy going to answer for the fact that they haven't done anything on initiative petition reform for the past month? They didn't get it done because of their failures in leadership last year, and they keep pointing the finger at everybody but themselves.
All right. Hey, well, Bill, look, I told the audience before you came on that you answer the tough questions. We've asked the tough questions. You've answered them forthrightly, and we will then refer the matter to Cindy O'Loughlin. I'm going to bring this matter up to her, and we're going to see if she'll come on and talk about it. And I imagine she will. So we'll see what happens. Hey, thanks very much, my friend. I appreciate it. We respect so much your fervent support for these issues. And I just pray to God that we can get these things across the finish line one way or another. Thanks, Senator Bill Eigel. Appreciate it.
Bet. Thanks, Randy. Have a great
Bill
morning.
Eigel. All right, you too. Fired up. Bill's fired up. And maybe Tim can help us extract a little bit of this when he joins us. Tim Jones joins us in the next hour at 8:25. We'll be having an interlude talking about immigration, what's going on down at the border at 8 o'clock. Virginia Cruda coming up here on the Randy Tobler Show. You'll want to archive that one. And if you haven't heard it, the whole thing, you're just joining us, you want to listen to the podcast when that is up. What, tomorrow? Will that be up tomorrow, Jerome, later today?
So for anybody listening or just tuning in now, we usually get the Spotify, the podcast version up on your Spotify account by noon. So you don't even have to wait till tomorrow.
Okay,
just give us a little bit of time after the show, and we'll have it up and ready to go.
Sounds good. And we will reach out to Cindy O'Loughlin, see if we can get her on the air here next Saturday. You're listening to the Randy Tobler Show on News Talk STL 1019 94.1. Woo, fireworks, they be a-flying.
This is News Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion from the voices you know and trust. News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and newstalkstl.com.
I like supporting local companies that give back to the community. For more than 40 years, Vincent's Jewelers has helped raise more than $1.5 million for local charities. So I'm personally asking that when you're shopping for jewelry, give Vincent's a chance. And in turn, Vincent's will give even more to our community. On Olive, just east of 270. New specials every day on vincentsjewelers.com or Vincent's Facebook.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be Shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Ackerman Toyota had a great 2023, so Jay asked me to thank you for all of your support. Loyal customers making Ackerman Toyota number one in St. Louis Toyota sales. Number one out of the 75 Toyota dealers in the region in Camry and Corolla sales. Ackerman has the lowest prices, great selection. Visit Ackerman at Hampton and 44 or online, ackermantoyota.com. Ackerman Toyota, for life.
How'd you like to eliminate your expensive cable bill forever or get new satellite internet where cable can't go? Well, now you can have affordable satellite internet service for a few dollars a day. All you need is a mini satellite installed, and you can have unlimited internet connections wirelessly in your home or office. And no cable boxes means unlimited connections and no clutter. You can surf the internet or stream any of your favorite television services with no cable. And the best part is, satellite internet service costs only a few dollars a day for your entire home. Yes, fast internet to surf or stream television for a few bucks a day. Call now for free details and learn how to drop your expensive cable bill.
800-696-2871. 800-696-2871. 800-696-2871. That's 800-696-2871.
If you suffer from COPD symptoms like shortness of breath and fatigue, where do you turn? There are medications and oxygen, but do you know about pulmonary rehab? 3 out of 5 COPD patients have never heard of it. Pulmonary rehab is an exercise, education, and support program that gives you tools to manage your condition, and Medicare typically pays for it. So whether it's grocery shopping on your own or just walking across the room, pulmonary rehab can help you. Visit livebetter.org to find out about your options for pulmonary rehab today.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, is brought to you by the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Request a free portfolio review at clearpathinvesting.com.
Oh, what you gonna do? You wanna get down? Tell me. Oh, what you gonna do? Do you wanna get down?
Hey, it looks like you like to get up early, so Monday through Friday, listen to me from 5:30 to 9. Mike Ferguson here, and you are listening to The Randy Tobler Show right here on News Talk STL.
Whoa, 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 whoa. You would never do that to your gun.
That was conversation that was pretty fiery, wasn't it? Welcome back to the program. Virginia Kruta joins us now. And wanted to, Virginia, if you can play clip 6 there, Jerome, for me.
If you go
go ahead and play that. This is James Carville. I hope it's James Carville.
to the Drudge Report, and I think it'll still be up, there's a story that talks about Trump having hand cuts, and you can link to it. They don't look like cuts to me. They look like sores. And I've asked a number of MDs what medical condition manifests itself through hand sores, and the answer is immediate and unanimous: secondary syphilis. All right, I think there's a good chance this man has the clap, and I'm not being particularly secretive about it. I am texting the photo. You can link to it. It's in some operation called a Daily Mail. It's some British thing. It's probably a Fleet Street rag, but maybe the picture was doctored or whatever, but maybe this story will go somewhere, maybe it won't, but I'm telling you, at 1 o'clock Eastern, I'm humping this thing like a young dog on old furniture.
Okay, so there's James Carville, of course, the operative in so many Democrat, national, and other local regional elections for decades. There was a thing, and just to set you up here, I don't know if you saw it, but the Drudge Report had a picture of Donald Trump with his hand in the air and on his forefinger and the area between his forefinger and his index finger and the thumb, some ulcer looking lesions. And James Carville and others were claiming that, oh my goodness, is this syphilis? Now, first of all, that's not what secondary syphilis would look like typically. I wonder if James Carville might have tertiary syphilis, maintaining such a preposterous notion. It's ridiculous. Virginia with us now, Jerome?
Yeah, we got her.
Virginia, did you hear? What about that flap where James Carville said that Donald Trump may have syphilis? I mean, what the conversation's in the gutter politically in this country.
Well, I mean, hasn't it been though forever? The conversation has. I mean, keep in mind that Thomas Jefferson called John Adams a hermaphrodite. So, I mean, I don't ask me how I pulled this out of my head, right? And
I don't know. How'd you get with that one?
during the same campaign, Adams had a competing newspaper, put out an article declaring that if a libertine like Jefferson were elected, the streets would run red with the blood of your murdered daughters. So I don't think political discourse has changed much over time. We just see more of it, I think, because 24-hour news cycle and, But here's what I will say. I think James Carville, when handicapping the Democrats, is a useful tool. But because he steps off a little bit when he tries to talk about Republicans. No, when he talks about Democrats, he gets it right. He says, look, you guys are using these terms like Latinx that nobody in the Latin community cares about. You're using these terms that only academics are using in papers and expecting the public to think that you're not talking down to them. The whole foray into woke politics, he has a problem with. And so I think he's right on a couple of things that Democrats are doing wrong. But as far as when he talks about Republicans, he's got kind of a blind spot where he gets to talking about Republicans and dirty is the only way he knows to play.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, so in other words, he's a little bit of a good conscience sitting on the shoulder of the Democrats.
If they would listen to him, yeah. And I'm kind of glad they don't, because it makes it harder for them to win. But if they were going to listen to him, they'd probably he's kind of fighting back against the squads and the their insistence on certain identity politics type things, and he's right about that the average American doesn't care about those things. So when he's talking to Democrats about what they could do better, he's probably right. But when it comes to actually talking about what's going on the right, he's so anti everything on the right that it just all comes out as, well, they're horrible people. And here's another example of them being horrible people.
Yeah, I get it. No, they should listen to him if they cared about their fortunes, but I don't know. They seem to be ignorant to that. Hey, I wanted to play. I've been watching Davos. I'm sure you have been too. Perhaps you caught Paul Ryan at Davos. Why is Paul Ryan at Davos? That's a whole other discussion.
That's a great question.
And his thoughts about the upcoming presidential election. And a lot of people reject Paul Ryan, out of hand. But remember, he represented a purple district. And in order to get elected, you can't be as red in a purple district, or else you won't get elected. But all that aside, here's what he had to say about the presidential election.
Look, a lot's going to happen between now and November. Nothing's linear in politics these days. There's a zigzag. So who knows is the point. Biden is so weak that even Donald Trump pulls up ahead of him. But look at Nikki Haley's polling. I mean, she beats him by like 12 points in head-to-head polls. So I would prefer a candidate who I think would be a good president and who I know is going to win. And by the way, give us more seats in Congress. That's Nikki Haley. Well, obviously, my preferences aren't bubbling through the Republican Party right now. But let's just wait and see what happens in New Hampshire and see if this inevitability narrative, which has credence now coming out of Iowa, if it sticks past New Hampshire. And if Nikki Haley wins New Hampshire, then I think we got a race on our hands. So I want to wait and see what happens there.
Well, fair comments, Virginia, or is he off base?
Okay, well, Are you asking me, is it fair, or do I like what he said? Because those are two different things.
Yes.
Okay, so I think it's fair. I think it's fair because, one, in head-to-head polls right now, Nikki Haley does do better against Biden than Trump does. He's not wrong about that. Now, Trump is trying to paint that as an outlier and say, well, there was this one poll where it said that she was better, but in all the other polls. Well, the thing is, it's not an outlier. There were a few polls that said that. And there's even been at least one poll out of New Hampshire that had Nikki Haley beating him in the New Hampshire primary. And it wasn't a poll done by Nikki Haley. It was a poll from, I can't remember who did it, but it was like CBS or somebody did a poll this past week, and it was a reputable organization. Now, her margin of beating Trump in the primary was within the margin of error. But here's the thing. If you look at all these polls where Trump is beating Biden head-to-head, in most of those polls, he is either right at or inside the margin of error. So what you're saying is, okay, Trump beats Biden, 51 to 48, right? But the margin of error is 3%. So they could have tied. Or Biden could have beaten him maybe by a little bit. In a poll where the margin of error is 3%, Nikki Haley's beaten Biden by 6 to 7%. So she's outside that margin of error, which means she likely wins even without that factoring in. Now, that said, is Nikki Haley the best candidate? We don't know. We got to watch how the rest of the primary plays out. So I think that he's right. That, one, it looks like a one-person race right now after Iowa because Trump won that decisively. New Hampshire is a different ballgame, and Nikki Haley is popular there. She's also put a lot of money into New Hampshire, and so we need to see if that pays off. I think it's worth seeing if that pays off. You still have people saying that DeSantis has got a shot, but he was in a distant third in New Hampshire polling to begin with. So we got to, but as long as they're in the race, we have to let it play out. I think that he's right to say that. We have to let it play out. We have to let it see, because as long as they're in the race, you can't discount the fact that they're going to draw votes.
I agree. And I think
it's going to change the calculus.
To keep Donald Trump accountable and maybe within the lanes of an electable majority. All right. We thank you, Virginia. We'll be talking to you next week.
All right, sounds good.
Art Arthur and Tim Jones next hour. Stay there.
What's he gonna do?
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
There was an absolutely brutal attack on Andy Ngo. He is the conservative investigative journalist. Some of those people were sued, and there was a court ruling that let those people off the hook. Did you notice that that wasn't in the big national headlines? Somebody being attacked because they were observing criminal activity.
Weekday mornings, 5:30 to 9 on News Talk STL.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Hey, Columbo here for Rockwood Charcoal. I love to grill and definitely prefer using charcoal over gas. And ever since I met Jonathan Heslop and he introduced me to his product, Rockwood Lump Charcoal, I can't use anything else. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory and has been the nationally highest consumer-ranked charcoal for several years. So you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. Doesn't get any better than that. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey.
In the state of Missouri, we have a tool at our disposal to fight back. We have a statute on the books that makes it a felony offense to knowingly transport criminal alien through the state of Missouri. That's an enormous deterrent effect against drug traffickers and human traffickers. And we need to use that statute to make sure we're enforcing the laws and preventing this invasion from negatively impacting Missouri further.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Vision loss is not something that you feel until it happens.
Most people lose their vision from diseases like macular degeneration and glaucoma, not at birth.
With macular degeneration, you lose your central vision.
You have a blind spot right in the center of your face, so I can't actually see your face.
So even that little circle in which I could see became a big blur.
I was 65 when I first was diagnosed with glaucoma.
There were no symptoms. I had no headaches.
3 million Americans have glaucoma, and half don't even know it.
11 million people in the United States have macular degeneration.
You lose mobility, independence, changes your entire life.
So many eye disorders can be treated if caught early.
My husband tells me that I have beautiful brown eyes.
Emergency medical unit, respond to 102 Maple Avenue.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
New in Washington, thousands of pro-life activists rallied under falling snow on Friday at the annual March for Life as speakers urged the impassioned crowd to capitalize on the movement's major victory at the U.S. Supreme Court. New Jersey Congressman Chris Smith says that now the work really begins in each individual state.
As you all know, Dobbs conveyed the lawmakers newfound powers at every level, federal, state, and local, to save lives. We're greatly encouraged and filled with hope and resolve. Lives are being saved. Yeah, we'll have a setback here and there. Every human rights struggle does, but we are undeterred. We will not give up.
House Speaker Mike Johnson also among the speakers. He says he was an unplanned baby himself back in 1972. Appearing with former President Trump at a New Hampshire rally last night, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott made his endorsement official.
We need a president who will close our southern border today. We need Donald Trump.
The announcement came during a Trump rally in Concord. It is seen as a political setback to his fellow South Carolinian, the state's former governor, Nikki Haley, who's been trying to close the gap. Iran says it has successfully launched a new satellite into space orbit. Here's George Williams.
It's a historic first and marks the latest development for the Revolutionary Guard's space program, one which the West fears in connection with Tehran's ballistic missiles. The launch comes with heightened tensions in the Middle East and also just days after Iran and Pakistan exchanged airstrikes. UN sanctions related to Iran's ballistic missile program expired last October. Even so, the U.S. position is that Iran's satellite launches defy a UN Security Council resolution and called on Tehran to cease its activity.
That is George Williams reporting. More on these stories at townhall.com.
We all know that aches and pains come with simply getting older, but it doesn't mean you have to accept it. That's why I want to tell you about a special lady, Leah from Ohio, and her Relief Factor story. One Sunday, Leah was sitting on the couch in so much pain she was literally in tears. That's when she decided to try Relief Factor. Just 8 days later, she found relief, and she continued to get better and better. To quote her, she said, "I am truly amazed at this product. Like me, who after 9, almost 10 years, almost a decade of low back pain, lost that pain thanks to Relief Factor. If you're living with aches and pains, see how Relief Factor, a daily drug-free supplement, could help you feel and live better every day. Get the 3-week quick starter pack at relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF. It all comes with a feel better or your money back guarantee. That number, 1-800-4RELIEF, relieffactor.com.
Newly unredacted documents from New Mexico.
This is Everett Jones of Jones Air and Water Treatment. For the months of January and February, we're here to make your drinking water, cooking, ice, tea, coffee, and other water-based beverages clean, crisp, and free of contaminants. Joey, what do you think of yours?
We use ours here at the station every day, and it's great. There's no cumbersome big bottles, no plastic waste, and it seems endless.
Call us now at 636-899-1040 and schedule your free analysis and let us get you on the way to higher quality water. You can be a filter or buy a filter. Find us on the web at joneswater.com.
Throughout these chilly Midwestern months, where are you going to go for some hometown goodness? That would be Espino's Mexican Grill. Espino's Mexican Grill, located in 17409 Chesterfield Airport Road, serving up ooey gooey Mexican authentic goodness every single day of the week. I've been going to Espino's for years. They got the Taco Tuesdays. They got the awesome menu. They got the coldest drinks in town, and it is the fresh alternative to your typical Mexican fare. That's Espino's Mexican Grill, Espino'sMexicanBarGrill.com. Go to Espino's today, 17409 Chesterfield Airport Road. We'll see you there.
Are you tired of the corruption and special interest groups controlling our state and cities? Are you tired of yelling at your TV or your car radio because important issues like crime, homelessness, education, and taxes are being blocked by special interest groups? It is time for Missourians to declare our independence from special interest groups corrupting our government. Join the Freedom Principle Mo today, and you can be an integral part of creating the largest statewide member-led organization fighting for America and Missouri First policies. The Freedom Principle Mo is fighting to put the voters back in charge of our government. The Freedom Principle Mo has been a leading voice in Jefferson City, fighting for our police and making our community safer, exposing corruption at the local level and in Jefferson City. It's time to start making our elected officials start listening to us and finally start passing legislation that protects our freedom and protects Missouri's values. Visit our website at freedomprinciplemmo.org and join today and make 2024 the year we get something done.
This hour of the Randy Tobler Show brought to you by Advanced Dentistry Now. Doctors Dan Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer. 636-978-0226 or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer on News Talk STL. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter.
This is Larry Connors. Right now, you're listening to Dr. Randy Tobler. Informative, engaging, enjoy. And I invite you to listen to the Larry Connors USA Daily Report, Monday through Friday at 6.
Should everyone get an attorney? That's what I heard in your testimony. Anyone that comes to our border, they should get an attorney. Is that right?
So legal representation has been shown to greatly improve both the fairness of the system and the efficiency. If you have a lawyer
So the American taxpayers should pay for the lawyers also. Not only should they pay for the hospitals, not only should they pay for the schools, not only should they pay the SNAP benefits, they should also pay for the lawyers to allow them as people from outside the United States to be able to come into America.
Who is a big-time guy with the American Immigration Lawyers Association, and really framing the issue of how just dysfunctional this discussion is in our country. And now we talk with Andrew Art Arthur, who's a resident fellow in law and policy and a good friend of ours at the Center for Immigration Studies. How you doing, Art? That was an amazing back and forth, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's funny, Randy, because that's an argument that I hear a lot is, I used to be an immigration judge. I had a lot of cases in which people had lawyers, good lawyers, not a lot of cases in which individuals represented themselves. And I was able to, satisfy due process and attempt to do justice in each of those cases. So, yeah, it is an amazing back and forth, and it is one of those things that really underscores the huge costs that the American people are going to be expected to pay thanks to the Biden administration's migrant policies.
We have a lot to talk about. I've been keeping up with your prolific blogs and writings on CIS.org. You've got a water-cooled pen this last week or so. Let's start with the Custom and Border Patrol's border numbers. It appears as though they've been late. I wasn't able to see if last evening, because you wrote about how they tend to release the bad news on a weekend dump, and we were expecting more bad news, in the December numbers coming out, should have been out a week ago. Have they released those yet, December's numbers?
Yeah, no, I haven't seen the numbers yet. I will be honest with you. I've been traveling to Baltimore for the Ravens game, but I checked late yesterday. They hadn't come out, and as soon as they do come out, I will write them up and explain them to you and all your listeners on my blog because this is one of those things that the American people need to understand. And in that blog that you talk about, I talk about the weekend news dumps that that the Biden administration has engaged in order to hide bad border news. And as I note, probably the most egregious news dump was the one during the early voting period for the 2022 midterm elections. Those ones came out on a Friday night at 11 o'clock after early voting had already begun in 14 states, including battleground states. So, there is a political aspect to this. There shouldn't be. This should be a straightforward ministerial function of CBP. But unfortunately, it looks like it's been perverted by politics.
We're talking with Andrew Arthur from the Center for Immigration Studies, CIS.org. And, I don't even know if I need a tinfoil hat because I think it's reality, Art. But, we were talking earlier about manipulating the various policy issues and suddenly doing a 180 in an election season. We're seeing Joe Biden involve America in more and more kinetic action over in the Red Sea and Yemen, and who knows where's to follow. That reminds me of the old Wag the Dog movie. Are we seeing a bit of a wag the dog effort when it comes to immigration policy? Suddenly, it's being reported that in the last couple of weeks, border encounters are down, illegal crossings down. They've convinced Mexico all of a sudden, after 3 years of just wanton, lack of enforcement of the rules down there, suddenly it seems like things have cut down a lot compared to previously. Do you think, is that a political move or why?
Yeah, Randy, it's interesting that you bring that up because, Mexico's a sovereign country. We all appreciate that. And yet President Trump was able to use U.S. Diplomatic policy and U.S. economic might to convince the Mexicans to do things that helped us to secure our southwest border. Of course, they sent their National Guard down to their southern border to stop people who were crossing over from Guatemala and every country south of there. They also agreed to take back and to provide support for all of those 62,000 aliens that were returned to Mexico under the Migrant Protection Protocols, better known as Remain in Mexico. But as soon as Joe Biden took office, the Mexicans either thought that they had a patsy or the Biden administration decided to just simply take a much more hands-off attitude with respect to the Mexicans. And for 3 years, they really haven't done anything significant to stop the vast majority of people coming through. Now, to be fair, they have actually apprehended and deported a pretty fair number of people from their own country, but far from all of them. And, in many instances, right at the border, they're helping to facilitate the entry of those individuals. Fast forward to a meeting on December 27th with Anthony Blinken, Alejandro Mayorkas, and the president of Mexico, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. And, they came out of that with a statement that said, we're going to push for amnesty and, we're going to do all these other things. None of them talked about securing the border. But now we actually do see the Mexican government taking steps, using its forces to actually return people south. So they'll apprehend them up in the north, and then they'll send them down south to Tapachula and down to the Guatemalan border, where they'll detain them and try to push them out of Mexico. It raises the question, Randy, why exactly there's been this change in policy by the Mexicans. And the best thing that I can tell you is that the Biden administration has allowed about 50,000 illegal Mexicans to enter the United States through the ports of entry who have used its CBP 14 app. I think that is the trade-off that the Biden government has cut with the Mexican government to actually get the Mexican government to do something. Now, of course, that's going to cost us money, to do that. And there's probably some, financial support that's going to the Mexican government as well. We just don't know about that, but we will be looking for it.
So I have to ask you about, since you've been an immigration judge, and the rule of law is the rule of law, and I would assume a judge is going to interpret the existing statutes the way they need to be interpreted in every given case. Is it true, which I think Mayorkas and others imply, is that when someone shows up, an able-bodied 25-year-old single male shows up from Central America, from Mexico, and turns themselves in to Border Patrol agents and says, I'm here seeking asylum, is there an obligation or is there not for them to be given a ticket to a court hearing with someone like Art Arthur? Or is there another mechanism? I thought during the Trump administration, these people were being told, forget about it. You get out of here. Go back across the border. What is the truth?
Well, that was actually the essence of Remain in Mexico. Sure, those people had a right to an asylum hearing, but they had to wait in Mexico, for that asylum hearing. And not surprisingly, Randy, most of them decided to just go home when they knew that they weren't going to be able to live and work in the United States for 5 years that it took to actually see an immigration judge. The other thing is the law requires that all of those people be detained. They've been detained from the moment that they're apprehended until the moment that they're either granted asylum or removed. The Biden administration has refused to do that. In fact, I ran the numbers. And, there's a big transparency issue, as those news dumps suggest from the Biden administration. But it appears that 88.5% of all illegal aliens who come, over that border are released into the United States, which is the reason why so many other people are coming. They know that now is the time for them to get into this country, because if they get in, they're going to be here indefinitely, if not forever.
Okay. And so this is really an impeachable offense. I mean, is there any other way to construct this? I mean, the guy, he has clear orders to keep people away from getting in. It's like, do you want a perimeter defense for the termites, or do you want to have, wait till they eat up your beams in your home, and then we better do something about it? I mean, we have a mechanism. Donald Trump had a mechanism in place. He didn't allow mass parole, which is another thing you and I have talked about, which I think is still ongoing, right? Which then does make them legal, doesn't it, in a sense? So all this could be undone. Yeah. They choose to ignore it. So is there any reason that Mayorkas shouldn't be impeached?
No, no, not really. And honestly, Randy, you touched on a key point. The Supreme Court has had a couple of cases come before it that were brought by the states to force the Biden administration to actually enforce the immigration laws. But the courts have said, no, that's up to the political branches. That's not an issue for us to resolve. Justice Alito, in the most recent of those decisions, said, this is ridiculous. He was in dissent. He said, this is ridiculous that impeachment should be the only option left on the table when the government won't enforce the law. But Alito made it clear that impeachment is an appropriate vehicle for Congress to use to actually force Mayorkas to enforce the law. He hasn't enforced the law. This threat's been on the table. And in fact, the impeachment proceedings that are going on right now are going on in the House Homeland Security, because when the impeachment resolution was on the floor of the House, Democrats voted to send it back to the House Homeland Security Committee for exactly what they're doing. So, yeah, I mean, the impeachment process is appropriate. I leave it up to Congress to determine whether he should be impeached. I think the American people are, by and large, pretty clear about where they stand on the issue. But, yeah, that's an ongoing process with the Congress right now.
All right. Before we let you go, I have to get your thoughts about what some have termed a constitutional crisis at the Texas border, particularly at Eagle Pass, where we understand Greg Abbott is circumventing federal officials patrolling of that area. I mean, he's replaced federal ICE officials, maybe is that CBP too, with Texas law enforcement. I mean, that's what's being reported. Is that what's going on, and does that smell right to you? I mean, it sounds right ideologically, but what does it mean constitutionally from your perspective?
So, yeah, this is an ongoing case. It's been ongoing since September. When Title 42 ended, the state of Texas, under its Operation Lone Star state effort, started putting up concertina wire at the southwest border to block people from, just crossing the Rio Grande and crossing into the United States. That's fine for CBP in almost, all of that 1,254-mile border between Texas and Mexico, but not in 29 miles of it in Maverick County, Texas, including Eagle Pass. They started cutting it. They started tearing it out of the ground so that they could let migrants in. This all went to court. The Fifth Circuit is currently considering it. But in the interim, Texas seized control of Shelby Park, which is a municipal park right on the Rio Grande in the city of Eagle Pass, so that they could block off migrants from using that very active zone to come into the United States. And yeah, they've prevented CBP from coming in. But according to the state of Texas, the CBP, needs to get down to the river. They'll let them come down to the river. But, according to filings by the state of Texas, not only aren't they crossing through, but they've stopped patrolling the river right in front of Shelby Park. And so there was a drowning there. It was reported to Texas about an hour after it had occurred. It was across the river. The Mexican officials took care of it, with respect to their survivors, with respect to the recovery effort. But, this is now being used by the press to say, look, Texas is allowing people to die. That's just not true. None of that is true from any of the filings in that case. But it's been very much twisted around so that people think that is true.
Do the feds have an action there to say to Greg Abbott, hey, it's ironic, isn't it? How can the feds now, when they've been blatantly ignoring enforcement obligations, how can they now, when Abbott's doing what the feds wouldn't do, how can the feds come in and say, as the Biden administration is trying to do, at least rhetorically, and I think there's maybe legal action going on, how can they say, well, let us do the job we weren't doing? I mean, it doesn't look good optically, and it certainly doesn't make sense politically, does it? Either way.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't. And, the only way that they're able to spin this politically is by, not telling the full truth. The full truth is that Texas is actually securing that section of the border down in Eagle Pass, and that they are preventing people from coming across. All of this other stuff is just eyewash and show. So, ignore that. But yeah, this is wrapped up in that concertina wire case. It's a case called Texas versus DHS that is actually currently at the Supreme Court. Randy, the Biden administration is going to the Supreme Court arguing that it should be allowed to tear up concertina wire that belongs to the state of Texas. It's exceptional. I'm sure the justices are beside themselves.
This is crazy. This is just crazy. I mean, I think this is going to, again, float to the top of the list in terms of people's priorities in these United States of America, just like it did in 2016. I mean, everyone from liberal city mayors to rural, citizens where their land is being trampled down on the border and pretty soon across America. And I'm just glad this is floating to the top. This is just not tolerable. And thank you for unpacking so many issues and putting it together so clearly for us. I would hope that folks will continue to read your and your colleagues' brilliant essays and fact-based analysis on CIS.org, Center for Immigration Studies, CIS.org. Art Arthur, thank you very, very much for being with me on this Saturday morning.
Randy, thank you. It's a pleasure as always, and my best to you and all your listeners.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. All right. There he is. That lays it out there. I mean, this is like case closed, slam dunk, bam, it's over. There is no other cogent argument. Joe Biden is guilty of dereliction of duty. Mayorkas needs to be impeached immediately. The sovereignty of this country is under threat directly, and we just have to say no. Period. No. When we come back, Tim Jones joins us, and we're going to get his take. I don't know if he heard the Bill Eigel interview. We'll see if he did, but we can recap it if he didn't as we head along on the show this morning. It's 8:21. You're listening to 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL, The Tobler Show, along with Jerome. I'm Randy. Glad you're here.
No big old corporate lib AM station telling us what to say here.
Conservative talk for St. Louis. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1.
And always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Retirement planning used to be easy. You put in your 40 years with the company, get the gold watch, and life's good, right? Wrong. Randy Tobler here. Planning for retirement today involves balancing critical decisions regarding your investments, pensions, Social Security, and more. That's why I'm urging you to start planning now. It's also why you should connect with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. They bring a combined 100 years of wealth management experience to help you with your retirement plan. You can hear Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert every Saturday morning at 9 during On the Money here on News Talk STL 101.9. Their team is ready to help you design your retirement plan with the care and commitment you deserve. Request your complimentary retirement plan consultation today at clearpathinvesting.com or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stiefel Nicholas and Company, Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Missouri Wild Alchemy is a local and family-owned business dedicated to providing consumers with high-quality cannabis and education. They strive to make customers feel comfortable and to help curtail the stigma of cannabis use by having a professional and well-educated staff. They're proud to carry products from several Missouri cultivators and manufacturers. Missouri Wild Alchemy, now serving recreational customers 21 and above, as well as patients. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram, or visit MissouriWild.com. That's MissouriWild.com.
Congratulations to everyone at Connor Roofing. We chose the Connor Roofing team for our National Best of the Best Award for customer satisfaction without telling anyone at Connor Roofing, based on over 30 years of fantastic customer reviews. Rob and Kathy Connor and their team deliver very high quality roofing, siding, gutters, storm damage restoration at a fair price with integrity. Connor Roofing has had an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau for years. Count on Connor. For an estimate, please visit ConnorRoofing.com. That's CONNER roofing.com.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo. The new year is upon us, and the cleaning pros at Zero Res are starting things off with a bang with what I think is their best offer ever. Book a cleaning in January and mention the Colombo special, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at just $119, plus you can take $50 off an air duct cleaning. We trust Zero Res with our home, and after you take advantage of this amazing special, you will too. Just remember to mention the Colombo special when you call 314-474-2020 or book online at ZeroResSTL.com.
Considering an online pharmacy? Explore BeSafeRx to find useful information and resources to help you purchase medicines safely online. A safe online pharmacy requires a doctor's prescription, has an address in the United States, has a licensed pharmacist, and is licensed by a state pharmacy board. It's best to stay away from online pharmacies that don't meet these criteria. Discover more helpful tips and resources at BeSafeRx. Go to fda.gov/BeSafeRx.
The Vic Borselli Show.
How about some expert commentary on the New Hampshire primary, which is this Tuesday? We'll get that from Rob Bluey from the Heritage Foundation right off the bat Monday at 9:05.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer on News Talk STL.
Good morning, everybody. Tony Colombo and Katie Fitzpatrick here.
Thanks for listening to the Randy Tobler Show here on News Talk STL. And don't forget to join us every weekday at 2 p.m. for Colombo and Katie.
Also, keep it here for my Saturday morning show, the Bluff City Outdoor Show, today at 11. Now, back to Dr. Randy Tobler. Love you, Doc.
We love you too, Tony and Katie. Tim Jones joins us now from the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show here on News Talk STL daily from 4 to 6 p.m. to keep your evening going bright and strong in a very conservative way. Tim, thanks for joining me, brother.
Hey, good morning, Randy. How you doing this morning?
Man, I'm fired up. I'm telling you, we had some fireworks crackling last hour when Bill Eigel joined me. I mean, we played a little back and forth between he and Cindy O'Loughlin on the Senate floor on Thursday. Got quite heated, and I was asking him, man, can't we get along and big hug? And he says, well, we just want to get things done, and Cindy, not bringing things to the floor. What's your analysis on what's going on in the Missouri Senate? And we're going to expand, of course, this conversation to the national scene too. But let's start there.
Randy, the problem in Missouri is, and I can tell you, I've now got nearly 20 years of institutional memory, having served in the legislature, watching the legislature, working around the legislature and with the legislature. I handle several really key projects right now in the liberty and freedom world of politics and public policy. I work with Americans for Tax Reform and Grover Norquist. I work with the American Legislative Exchange, which is ALEC, which is a trade association for conservative legislators. And I just picked up a new project. As you know, I'm the state director for the Missouri Freedom Caucus under the State Freedom Caucus Network, affiliated with the U.S. House Freedom Caucus and our own Congressman Eric Burleson, who's one of the freshest new freedom fighters in the U.S. House. And so, Randy, I've I can tell you and this is my honest analysis. The first decade or so that Republicans were in charge in Missouri for the first time in 60 years, back in the early 2000s, they were motivated every year with their leadership teams to reform government. That's what Republicans are supposed to do, right? That's what Reagan taught us all with the Reagan Revolution. That's what Donald Trump put on steroids, that government's broken and Republicans shouldn't make it bigger. Republicans aren't any better at making government bigger than Democrats. In fact, they often, do it worse because it's not in our bailiwick. It's not in our conscience. And then Randy, for the second decade, between up until the early 2020s and now into the present, I firmly believe that the Republicans in Jefferson City, the leadership class, they've really lost their way, Randy. They've stopped reforming government. They've put the budget on rocket boosters that would make Elon Musk blush. I mean, when I left in 2015, our state budget was around $27 billion all in. It's now over $52 billion. That's incredible. That's beyond the cost of Bidenflation, right? I don't know how our budget got this big. I don't know how Republicans let it get that big. And Randy, what Bill Eigel and the Missouri Freedom Caucus and all the members there and the Missouri Freedom Caucus adjacent folks want to do is return the Missouri Republican Party that's governing in the Capitol back to a conservative party. It's not. I'm telling you, there is a center left governance structure leading Missouri right now, and they've allowed personality to trump public policy. And to prove my point, I don't need to throw names. I just got to, show people their records. And I've known Cindy O'Loughlin, the majority leader, a very long time. But my contention is that the Cindy O'Loughlin that I knew 10 years ago would be extremely infuriated at the Cindy O'Loughlin of today. During the first session or so, first couple of years up in Jefferson City, she had a really solid CPAC score, the American Conservative Union, really good Club for Growth score. These are the groups that watch the legislators as independently, grading institutions, and she was always in the upper 90s. Her lifetime conservative score now is in the 60 percentile for a lot of these, and I don't believe that's because she's changed. She's let Jefferson City change her, and my feelings are even more strong when it comes to the current Senate President, Caleb Rowden. I do not believe he's a conservative. I do not believe he's governing in a conservative way. I've known him a very long time. He has consistently not been honest with myself. There was an instance when I was speaker where he flat out lied to me, and I believe he's done that throughout his entire career. And so these are folks, Randy, that would rather let certain conservative personalities drive them nuts and aggravate them and force them to call other people names than to move good public policy forward. Why won't they pass tax cuts? Why won't they pass education reform? Why won't they fix our incredibly broken, hijacked initiative petition process? Why won't they get ESG out of our corporate and our banking systems? These were all priorities that Caleb Rowden and the Speaker of the House said they were going to work on last year. They had 7 priorities. I interviewed them several times on this. They got one thing across the finish line, and only one, with a Republican supermajority. And that was the SAFE Act to prevent kids being mutilated by the trans cult and to keep dudes out of girls' sports. But even with that, they let the swamp interfere with their core convictions, and they put a 4-year sunset on that bill. The Senate President, Caleb Rowden, made sure that 4-year sunset went on. So in 4 years, it's going to be okay to go back to mutilating kids, lopping off otherwise healthy body parts, and letting kids be confused about their 30,000 pronouns. I don't understand, Randy. What it comes down to is I don't understand what's going on in the leadership levels in Jefferson City. This is not the leadership teams that I worked with and served under. Sure, did we have our arguments? Did we always want to push the envelope? Maybe somebody wasn't doing that's the other thing. But we used to come into every session with a conservative agenda. The House always said, we're going to do these 3 to 4 things. The Senate always said, we're going to do these 3 to 4 things. We'd work towards those things. We'd push them as far as we could. And then on the last day of session, if those things weren't in the last few days of session, if those things were not across the finish line, then we moved the previous question in the Senate. We got those through. We didn't sit around and fight with fellow Republicans. So I think there's a million reasons why this has gone completely off the rails. But Randy, leadership cannot continue to try to pass the buck in this state. It is not anybody's fault except theirs. They're the leaders. They're supposed to be the ones moving these things forward, and they should not let petty personality conflicts get in the way of good public policy.
All right. Well, that's a great exposition of the Freedom Caucus position, and it sounds philosophically pure, honorable, noble, where I think everyone would want to go. And I would assume that Cindy O'Loughlin, who I hope to get on the air next week, I'm going to offer that chance because she's a friend of mine, my former state senator when I lived in Northeast Missouri. I'm going to get her on. I want to have her answer this. But here's I guess, if I may, before that interview happens, here's what I hear in the background from people who I respect, good Christian people who want to protect life as much as you and I, who want education choice as much as you and I. Is it possible that procedurally, unless they get the votes together and the agreement not to get a filibuster from the other side, that it's nice to float these things and put them on the floor, but they're not going to pass until we get some kind of agreement not to shoot them in the butt from the Democrats? Isn't it possible that the Democrats could filibuster every one of these things and we would end up not getting what we wanted? Or is that procedurally, false premise?
Yeah, I think it's a false premise, Randy, and I've got a perfect example for you. If leadership was really intent on passing conservative priority bills, then they would be flooding the zone with the conservative priority bills, right? Everything that's reflected in the Missouri Republican Party platform, right? All of these items that we've talked about, they're in our platform. So if you don't like these items, then you don't like the platform, which means maybe you shouldn't be in the Republican Party. And I've got a perfect example for you, Randy, this year. Last year, and for I think several years before that, the leadership teams in the House and Senate agreed that we needed to do something to address what I mentioned earlier, the initiative petition process, right?
Yes.
What's happened to our initiative petition process is for the past several cycles, it has been hijacked by out-of-state, extremely far left-wing interests who are coming in with deceptive, and I'll stand by that, completely deceptive ballot propositions to do things that the people have elected our representatives and senators not to do, right? Like for 12 to 15 years, our Republicans ran on a platform that they would stop Obama-Biden Medicaid expansion. Everybody ran on that, and everybody was elected on that. So then they brought in a giant multi-million-dollar out-of-state effort to expand Medicaid expansion. It was a very deceptive ballot proposition, and of course, it barely passed. But so that was an end run around. They're going to do it with abortion. They've done it with minimum wage increases. They did it with hijacking our redistricting process with Clean Missouri, which they never said that was in Clean Missouri. And then thankfully, the legislature was able to reverse that. So this has been happening on every single issue, cycle in and cycle out. And so what has been the response? Well, the grassroots and the voters and the party here in Missouri, the Republican Party, have said, we need to reform this process. We're not going to take it away. We're not going to destroy it. We're not going to remove it. It needs to be reformed so a concurrent majority of the state, not just 50% plus one, but a 50% plus one plus a concurrent majority of the state, like a concurrent majority of all the House districts or a concurrent majority of all the Senate districts. That way, the huge urban centers, the leftist populist urban centers of St. Louis and Kansas City don't continue to undo all the things that the legislature has done for the last 20 plus years. And so the leaders agreed, yes, that's a priority. Last year, they made a hard push to get that done. I will give them credit for the effort, but I will give them an F for the execution, because the bill that was the proposal that the legislature agreed on, whether you liked it or not, it went through the entire process. It was on Cindy O'Loughlin's calendar on the last few days of session, and she did not bring that bill up for a final vote. She had plenty of legislative tools that she could have done that with. This year, so here's what's even worse. So it failed, right? So, Randy, wouldn't you think that would still be a priority for this year? It is for the voters, Republican voters. It is for the grassroots. It is for a huge swath of the elected representatives and senators. 3 weeks of session have passed. We are entering our fourth week of session next week. And as of Thursday, which would have been the last day this week, Caleb Rowden, the Senate president, he hadn't even referred a single bill to address that issue in the Senate. There's like 6, 7, or 8 of them on file. He hadn't referred a single bill, and in some of the back and forth, I listened to a lot of the debate. There was an 11-hour filibuster on Thursday. I listened to a lot of it. He was asked about his priorities for the session. He never mentioned initiative petition reform, and he's now making comments to suggest that it's not. How did the number one priority for the Republican Party suddenly become not a priority at all for the Senate leadership? That's the failure of leadership. That's where the swamp is now governing in Jefferson City.
Well, but again, to get back to the initial question, Tim, I mean, a lot of us are not that familiar with every rule and, as you say, the legislative tools to get things done. Okay, so there's a supermajority, but let's say that what would have happened would have been what you would have hoped had happened, and that would have been they put the IP reform bill, on what would generally be an acceptable bill to both sides of the Republican conference now. And they put that on the floor. Could the Democrats have thwarted it, and therefore it would have been a moot point to put it on the bill on the floor because it couldn't pass?
Well, Randy, they're not even moving it. They're not even making
a Democrat filibuster.
Yeah, but Republican leadership in the Senate is not even moving the bills, Randy. And now you've lost almost the first month of session, so it's not a priority for them. But it's a priority for everybody else in the state. And other things are not their priorities. What my point is, Randy, this has been happening every year. Of course, Democrats don't want Republican bills to pass. Does that mean that Senate leadership then just sits back and doesn't move any Republican bills? Because that's what they're not doing. What I said earlier was in the Senate, you have to flood the zone early with all of the priorities, right? The tax cuts should be a priority. Education reform should be a priority. Pushing back against the woke agenda in our schools should be a priority.
Yeah.
Making sure that we don't have ESG or CRT or DEI around should be a priority. Medical freedom should be a priority. Making sure there's no more COVID tyranny ever again. But Randy, they're not moving those. My point is, they're not moving those bills behind the in the smoke-filled back chambers of the Senate. Those bills are not being moved. They've moved one priority this year. They have moved education reform, okay? That's one. And it's now on the Senate floor next week for debate. But you know what the Senate leader did? He put the FRA tax renewal bill ahead of it. That's another hugely controversial bill because many of the pro-lifers believe it doesn't have the anti-abortion language in it. Whether you agree with them or not, the pro-lifers, which is the Freedom Caucus and beyond, most Republicans, they want that language on it. Well, the Senate leader on Thursday, he had the choice to put the education reform bill next up for debate or this hugely controversial abortion FRA bill. He chose to put the abortion FRA bill ahead of the education bill. So, Randy, they're playing parlor games up there. That's what leadership's doing instead of advancing conservative priorities.
All right, there's Tim Jones. You hear that and all of that and more every day here from 4 to 6 with the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show. Tim, I want to ask you about the burn your bridges back talk I hear in terms of not the strategy that you've talked about, but tactically. And I hear that when I talk to people that are in and around the Capitol, good people who are saying, hey, just the way the Freedom Caucus, are conducting business, burning bridges. We'll talk about that and then pivot to national thoughts as things seem to coalesce behind Donald Trump. If you got a few more minutes as we wrap it up. Can you hang with me?
I can hang, Randy. I'd be happy to. My pleasure.
All right, let's do that. And as always, it's a real pleasure to talk with someone who's been there and done that. That's Tim Jones, former Speaker of the Missouri House. So he knows a little bit about how governance in Missouri works. It's 8:41. We'll be back and wrap it up with Tim here on the Tobler Show. Stay there. Hey, can we talk about your teeth and about your gums and about the health of everything in your oral cavity and around it, including the muscles that make those chompers work? That's what they can address all the way around. Holistic dental care all the way around. Everything globally. Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles, that's who they are. They are my dentists. They have been for years. And whether it's Dr. Daniel Cusimano, Dr. Megan Dwyer, Dr. Jay Olmus, they all do a fabulous job there. When I go there, I learn. Even though I think I know a little bit about this, I learn more every time. And I get extraordinary treatment. Just recently, I had a little problem. I called over there, and they were able to solve my problem and get at it right away. That's the kind of service you expect and deserve. That's the kind of service they deliver and are committed to at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles. And the new technique of releasing some of that tension and that grinding from those muscles that can really wear down your teeth and cause all kinds of problems, including TMJ dysfunction. Megan and Dan were on with me recently, and we talked about some Botox treatments for that. So, man, they are just continuing to expand their services, and I know they've got some exciting things up their sleeve that we will be talking about in the coming months as well. Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles, the place to go for your teeth. For the whole family, by the way, the whole family. And you make sure you get in touch with them. The number is 978-0226. That's 636-978-0226. AdvancedDentistryNow.com.
This is News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton, and we're proud to be the official winter weather source for News Talk STL. The First Alert Weather Team is working hard to keep you ahead of the big weather changes and help you plan your day. So stay connected this winter with Channel 4 and News Talk STL.
Getting a new floor for your home can be intimidating and a little scary. But that's not the case when you go to Michael's Flooring Outlet. Katie here, and my mom and dad used Michael's, and they had a great experience. They've been a locally owned and operated family business for more than 30 years. You want variety? Michael's has carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl, natural stone, and many other options. Shop in-store at one of their 3 locations in Creve Coeur, Dardine Prairie, or St. Peters. Check out everything that Michael's has to offer at igotfloored.com.
Hi, everybody. It's your buddy Todd Showalter along with my buddy Joey V from The Right Mind Show. You know how they always say, new year, new me? Well, we don't say any of those stupid things here. But you know what? Every week we do have a new guest right here on The Right Mind Show. Isn't that right, Joey V?
Stop being so stupid and forgetful. Put it on your calendar. Saturdays, 5 p.m., Right Mind Show. Get in your car. Don't drive anywhere. Just look at the radio until sound comes out.
And if you do miss the show because you're watching Matlock at that time, make sure to tune in to rightmindshow.com. That's rightmindshow.com for all the show replays. And plus, what better things do you have to do on a Saturday at 5 o'clock?
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote and accelerate the development of quality Christ-centered K-12 education.
Hi, this is Daryl Jones, president of the Herzog Foundation. Our primary goal is to advance Christian education so that families and culture flourish. The legacy of Stan's business career centers around making national transit ecosystems accessible and sustainable. Likewise, the legacy of Stan's philanthropy centers around making the ecosystems of Christian education more accessible and sustainable for families across the nation. Visit HerzogFoundation.com to learn more about our programs, including trainings, scholarships, conferences, news, and our podcast, Making the Leap.
Visit HerzogFoundation.com to learn more and sign up for The Lion, an initiative of the Herzog Foundation that carries articles covering a wide range of issues facing American families and culture. HerzogFoundation.com.
Attention! This is a public notice from the Social Security Disability Helpline. If you're one of the millions of Americans who are disabled and unable to work, you may be eligible for disability benefits from Social Security. Receiving benefits is your right. If you suffer from physical or mental disability, whether you're applying for the first time or you've already been denied, we can help. We'll evaluate your situation and deal with Social Security on your behalf. Best of all, there's no fee until you receive your benefits. Remember, we only get paid if you win your case. There are many reasons and conditions that may make you eligible for disability benefits. Many of them you may not be aware of. So if you're disabled and unable to work, call now to get started with your free, no-obligation consultation.
800-797-0711. 800-797-0711. 800-797-0711. That's 800-797-0711.
This hour, The Randy Tobler Show, brought to you by Advanced Dentistry Now. Doctors Dan Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer. 636-978-0226. Or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com. Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer. on News Talk STL. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL.
Welcome back to the program as we continue the conversation with Tim Jones. You hear Tim, of course, with Chris every weekday here from 4 to 6 on News Talk STL. And Tim, we have a caller who wanted to ask a question, and I wanted to get him on because he's a caller who isn't really in lockstep, I understand, with most Republican sentimentalities. So let's see what he has to ask. Go ahead.
Actually,
John,
I was
you're
talking to him on the break, and I think he wants to finish listening to Tim's final thoughts, and then he's going to call us back afterwards and kind of weigh in on it.
That's fine. Well, then okay. I was going to give him a chance because, Tim, it's always good to get the other side and get some other views on, because the echo chamber effect can be dangerous. We've seen that in the last couple of election cycles. I wanted to ask you about that. MAGA candidates have not done that well. Kerry Lake didn't do well. Now, was that election circumstances? Was it sentiments, midterms? And then, of course, 23 didn't go as well. How do you explain that, and what can be done about it to change that tide this cycle?
Well, Randy, I would push back on that a little bit, and say that, conservatism, I think, has done well in the country. And we did not have a red wave in 2022, and no one should have ever said we were going to anyway, right, Randy? Randy, our elections got so polarized, they're always going to turn on a knife's edge. But look at where Republicanism, conservatism did pick up victories in this country, unlikely places. We would not have a U.S. House majority right now if the good folks of New York had not chosen more Republican congressmen and women than they ever had in recent history. So, Randy, that's what happens when you hit rock bottom, right? New York has been bleeding people and prosperity and opportunity for several decades now. And you don't have to take my word for it. Look at all of the statistics, all of the nonpartisan statistics on this. Look at the U-Haul statistics that came out at the end of the year. More people are leaving New York and California than any other state in the nation. So when a place does hit rock bottom, as long as there's enough sane people left, they will turn and they will look at Republicans to fix all the carnage that this left-leaning and left-lurching Democratic Party has done to the country. And, Randy, in Florida, in our lifetimes, not that long ago, was considered a bellwether state. It was a purple state, right? And look at how the demographics of Florida have changed. Florida's Hispanic American population has boomed. It has really exploded over the last few years. And Democrats, because they're nothing but rabid racists, they just presumed, well, all Hispanic Americans vote for Democrats, so we've got Florida all locked down. Randy, the opposite has happened. People who have been making their way legally in this country and building wealth and families and businesses, all the Hispanic American, I shouldn't say all, right? The majority of the newer Hispanic American voter, they're voting for the Republican Party, and that's proven by Florida. You only got Miami-Dade. Miami-Dade has now been voting for Republicans in the last cycle. So, the racists in the Democratic Party were wrong. You cannot treat voting blocks as that just because of how people look. And so, but for those big victories in Florida and New York, Republicans would not be in the majority in the U.S. House. Now, do we need to do more? Yes, we do. And if you look at all the recent polling, you can take polling with a grain of salt, or you can look at where it's been right. It was right. The polling hit the bullseye in Iowa last week. And if you look, and if you trust that, and then you look at what's happening for this electoral cycle, Donald Trump and Republicans are more popular now amongst pretty much every demographic group. The approval ratings are higher than they've ever been, and the opposite is true of the Democrats. The Democrats' policies, finally, have been on full display for the last 3 years. Yeah. Full display. They've gotten to pretty much do whatever they wanted, and it's been an epic disaster for the country. Nearly 70% of Americans are not happy with the direction of the country as Joe Biden's approval rating heads towards 30%, the lowest ever for a modern-day president.
Well, you're right. And tomorrow is the anniversary of one of the most tragic days in American history, Tim. That's the inauguration of Joseph Biden to the President of the United States 3 years ago. So it's sort of a 9/11 of sorts,
Yes.
Well, his border policies have certainly resulted in, carnage down on the border and fentanyl crisis and everything else. What are your thoughts about vice presidential pick for Donald Trump, assuming that he's going to get the nomination?
Randy, not that he needs to do this, and I don't like to fall into the trap of, hyphenated America, which is what the lunatic left always advocates for. They really don't care about people's merit or their character or their abilities. It's all about what they look like. The Democratic Party, Randy, you and I have discussed this many times. They've always been the racists in America, and they continue to be the racists. They treat people like political pawns. Randy, that all being said, I've been hearing the chatter that the Trump team is looking to expand the demographics. Let's say it that way, right? And I think that's wise, right? And they're looking at whether a woman, vice presidential running mate, or a person of color might be the correct pick. And Randy, you know what? If they're the right person, then go for it, because you know what that does. It's not affirmative action. It's not doing what the dastardly Democrats do. It's expanding the tent, right? It's expanding the tent because there are, and see, that's the narrative of the left is that conservatives, MAGA, Republicans, whatever label they want to turn into a pejorative, because they hate all Republicans, Randy. Let's not fool ourselves with that. It doesn't matter if you're MAGA or you're Mitt Romney, right? They will hate you if you're running for president, right? And so the narrative is only us older white guys, right, are Republicans these days. That's not true. So if there is a woman, a person of color out there that Donald Trump says, I can work with this person, I'd love to have them by my side, and they're qualified, if that expands the tent and continues to enlarge those demographics I was talking about, then let's do it. I'm all for it, absolutely indeed.
Yeah. A lot of good names. We got Elise Stefanik. We've got Kristi Noem, Tim Scott, Byron Donalds. I can think of a cast of thousands that, and then we could be looking at 12 years if it works out right. 12 years. Hey Tim, we got to run. Thank you, my friend, for answering some tough questions that I think are concerning a lot of us about. Man, we got to get together. We got to get stuff done, both at the state and the national level. We'll continue to be listening to you every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show. Thank you, my friend. Have a warm weekend. Hope you stay warm.
Thank you, Randy. It's always a pleasure, honor, and privilege to be with you. Awesome show.
Enjoyed it. There he is, Tim Jones. Well, that wraps it up, guys. Man, what a power-packed show. Hope you can reprise this on the podcast as you stay in touch with us. We'll stay in touch with you on Twitter at Randy Tobler, MD. And see you next week, God willing. Have a great weekend and a great week.
In the beauty of the lilies, Christ was born across the sea with a glory in his bosom that transfigures you and me.
The news and talk.
Did Joe Biden just create a student debt bomb? So what? If I don't pay my student loans, what are you going to do?
That matters to St. Louis.